electronic, and you can do that. Otherwise, you pick it up at the police station.
Oh, okay.
An email will go around saying what time. You hear me? So your packet is not going to be delivered to you. You have two ways of getting it. One electronic, which we all get.
You know what, you want to give them to Nancy or Seamus to put on their bench?
That will be left in the police station.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
What's the packet for?
This is all the stuff that we're going through for you.
Okay.
Whole board packet for this meeting.
For this particular meeting. All right, cool. Thank you.
And this
Yes,
is
thank you
for
Yeah.
I'm going to just... part of the meeting, correct?
You have one?
Nora first.
Okay, so this...
Nice to meet you, Nora.
Nice to meet you. What's your name? Veteran. Nice to meet you. Tori, T-O-R-Y?
Yeah, Salvatore.
Oh, okay.
I go by.
This is the new agenda, by the way. You have a new agenda in that pile. That's been updated.
This might be all yours.
I know, I'm sorry.
Because I think mine was underneath my packet.
Oh, you still have it.
That's the ballot.
I know. Darren, I forgot to switch the two of them, but we will move the comments to the chair after the chair is appointed, for sure. So the, no, not right now.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I don't fill anything out right now, right?
nothing.
Can we write on stuff?
You get.
Can I take notes?
Right on it.
Off the grid.
Because now it's
Oh,
reliable.
We have 4 minutes till we start.
I got quiet.
Relax.
It's like, wait a minute.
You're good. Everyone else writes on it. Don't worry about it. You just hold on to 'em.
Okay.
What? Fundraiser. Oh, no, it's not fundraiser. This is for the windows. This is not a plot.
This is, just stuff like I know.
Garage, exterior garage. Yeah, so this is like landscape. No, I don't think that's. I don't know. I don't know who that is. Is that? That's Sheila Semper. This is our finance director. We got a couple. Linda back there, Linda Bracco from the BOS.
so this is going to be...
You're going to be seated right here in the chair.
Oh, of course. Sheila's here. Oh, there's Sheila. Okay, I was wondering. Who liked to use the microphone?
Hello. All right, say hello. Hello. Perfect. We can hear you. Okay. Next. Hello.
Kids don't hear you.
That's just me shouting. I don't even think that's plugged in.
No, that's your card.
You might be right.
Louder.
Hi.
Perfect.
Huh?
I said I think
It is. We'll get it all to work. Don't worry. Louder.
Hi.
It's not, Mel, there's no acceleration.
There's no sound coming out.
All right.
Yeah, we don't hear
It's
anything.
not being amplified.
Hold on. I think Ms. Sedlak is adjusting the volume for us. Is it not on?
Yeah, why don't you pass it? But it isn't working.
There's no batteries.
Is Mark coming back? That's good. That's good that you did a dry run.
It's fine. It was not on.
All right. We're going to practice being very loud tonight, okay?
I'm really gonna have
All right, perfect. So you guys can take a seat and we're going to work on getting some batteries for you all.
Is Christian?
as long as you need. I can up for $2.
I thought
All
you
right,
were going to say you got some batteries.
I think these work. So, Ms. Sedlak, I know, just stepped out, I think, to look for some additional batteries. So as soon as Ms. Sedlak does come back into the room, we will do the first task tonight, which is called an operational meeting. And that will be the swearing in of the new members and then calling the meeting to order for the appointment of chair and secretary tonight after the official appointment of all members of the Board of Education. Josh, can you hear us clearly in the back? Okay.
Kristen coming? Kristen. Not like everywhere.
She's waiting on the elevator. So she'll be here very
I
shortly.
didn't know that Mel has tracking on all of us.
Yes, GPS. I'll find you.
That's what that meeting was for. I see. Well, I wasn't looking.
Seamus, can you test that? All right, Ms. Sedlak, if you'd like to join us at the front for the swearing in of the official board members that are newly appointed.
Okay, did you want them to stand in the front?
Yes.
Okay.
And for our students, if you could kind of explain, because these are our Connecticut Kid Governor contestants that had participated, so they're very well versed right now in the way the democracy works. So if you could try to explain the process of what you're doing for their benefit at this point, that would be very helpful.
Yes, I think I can after all these years. But when someone is elected.
Do you want to speak into the microphone, Ms. Sedlak?
Okay, so I'll ask them to
Yeah, please.
people at home too.
Can you hear me? Oh. There. When you are elected to a position, you go through a voting process. And after you're duly elected, you take an oath swearing that you will perform your duties, in this case as a member of the Winchester Board of Education. And that goes on record. And that is, when you take an oath, you take it very seriously because you're making a commitment to the people you are working with for the full term that they are in office. So do you have any questions, or does that make sense? You're making a promise to do the very best. And listen to the words that I use.
Perfect. So at this time, we'd like to invite the appointed board members to the front, please. Rosie, could you grab a couple pictures for me, please?
Okay, I will have you raise your right hand. Okay? Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the State of Connecticut, the Constitution of the United States, and that you will faithfully perform your duties as a member of the Winchester Board of Education to the best of your ability, so help you God? Congratulations.
Thank you, Mrs. Sedlak. All right, so at this time, I am going to call our order at 7:03 for the Winchester Board of Education. Normally, the chairman would call the meeting to order because we have not elected a chairman nor a secretary. We will do that in a few moments, but until that point, I will serve as the moderator of this meeting. So at this time, again, I'm calling the order to time at 7:03 p.m. And if I could please have you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I So at this time, we will conduct a roll call, starting with Dr. Dutton.
Dick Dutton.
Oriel Veteran.
Kristen Peterson.
Nora Mukarski.
Doug Benninger.
Melanie Brady Shanley.
Jeanette Broder.
Renee Waldron.
Cheryl McGlynn?
And Sandra Strubar.
Thank you. All members are present. At this time, I'm going to read the language of the moderator for this evening's vote for chairman and secretary of the Board of Education. Good evening. I have volunteered for the role of moderator of the election process for permanent officers of the Winchester Board of Education for the time period between today and the November 2023 elections. Pursuant to Board of Education policy and where necessary, Robert's Rules of Order, the election process shall commence with a chairperson position, followed by the election of a secretary position. Descriptions of the chairperson and secretary positions are set forth in Article 2 of the Board of Education bylaws, which have been passed out, and those are present inside of your packet. Nominations for both positions shall be conducted in the following manner. 1, a person can nominate themselves. 2, a nomination does not need a second. 3, a member cannot nominate more than one person for an office until everyone has had the opportunity to make nominations. And 4, a member can rise and decline the nomination during the nomination process. Once the paper nominations have concluded for each position, members shall vote by signed paper ballot. You must indicate your selection for the position on the paper ballot. And please be advised, all ballots will be recorded for the record. So you should have, and I'm using this as an example, not because I'm a voter, you should have 2 ballots right now. A ballot which is highlighted Board of Education Chair, and the second ballot which has Board of Education Secretary written on it. So at this time, let's begin starting the nomination process for the chairperson position. Do we have any nominations for the chairperson?
I nominate Doug Fenninger for chair.
I second the nomination.
You do not need a second for a nomination. Dr. Dutton?
I'd like to nominate Cheryl McGlynn.
Do I hear any other nominations for the chair? I will say that 3 times. Do I hear any other nominations for the chair? That is time number 2. Do I hear any other nominations for the chair? That is time 3.
I nominate Nora Mukarski.
Okay. I will start that process over again. Do we have any other nominations for the chair? 1. Do we have any other nominations for the chair? 2. Do we have any other nominations for the chair? 3. Hearing none, what I would ask you to do at this time is please take out your ballot that is highlighted Election of Board of Education Chair, and please put an X on the line next to the person for whom you wish to vote, and then please pass your votes folded to myself. If anyone needs an extra copy, I do have extras here. Just to confirm, we have 9 voting members. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Recording, starting with this one. Doug Fenninger recorded as a 1. Number 2, Doug Fenninger as 2. Recording number 3, Cheryl McGlynn. Recorded as her 1. Ballot 4, Doug Fenninger. And that is his 3rd. Ballot number 5, Doug Fenninger. That is his 4th. Ballot number 6, Doug Fenninger. That is his 5th. Ballot number 7, Doug Fenninger. That is his 6th. Ballot number 8, Nora Makarski. That is her 1. Ballot number 9, Doug Fenninger. That is with 7 votes, Doug Fenninger. Cheryl 1, Nora 1. At this time, the board will make the motion to accept the nomination of Doug Fenninger for chairman of the Winchester Board of Education. So I need a motion
I make a, whoops, sorry. Go ahead. Motion to accept.
and a second.
I second.
Cheryl,
Cheryl.
vote from the Board of Education, please. Unanimous. Tuck these away and put these over here out of the way now that we can move to secretary. So at this time, let's begin the nomination process for the position of secretary of the Winchester Board of Education. At this time, I will accept nominations for the secretary.
Nominate Nora Murkowski.
We will take nominations for the secretary of the Board of Education. Hearing no other, I will ask 3 times. Nominations for Board of Education Secretary 1. Nominations for Board of Education Secretary going twice. Nominations for Board of Education Secretary 3 times. At this time, I will close the nominations for Board of Education Secretary. There is 1 nominee, that is Nora Makarski. At this time, I'll ask you to please take out your ballots and record your vote for Board of Education Secretary. Upon doing that, fold them and please pass them to me. I believe I have everyone's. Yes? Okay. So just to make sure that I have the numbers, we should have 9 ballots here. Ballot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Opening the ballots. Nora, 1. Nora, 2. Nora, 3. Nora, 4. Nora, 5. That one got away with me. Nora, 5. Nora, 6. Nora, 7. Nora, 8. Nora, 9. Nora Murkowski with 9 votes is the Board of Education Secretary. I need a motion from the Board of Education to accept that. Dr. Dutton with the first.
So move.
Second. Sandra with a second. And may I have a vote from the Board of Education to accept that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Nora? It is unanimous. So the appointments to the Board of Education for chair will be Douglas Fenninger and Nora Murkowski for secretary.
Thank you.
And congratulations to you both. On that same vein, at this point, I will turn the meeting over to our Board of Education Chairman, Douglas Fenninger, at this time.
Thank you, Melanie, and thank you for running that so well. I'd like to begin by welcoming our new members. It's great to have you with us. I think we're going to be a great team. I know a little bit about all your backgrounds, and we've got a diverse group of people here with a lot of interesting experience, so I think we're going to really make a great team, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you. One of the things I want to caution you about is you should not be afraid to ask questions, because new board members are inundated with all kinds of information. Educators love jargon, they love acronyms, and if you sit there and you don't ask what the heck people are talking about, you're never going to find out. So don't be intimidated. We all go through this. We wonder what ESSER is and what this is, and it's a lot to take in. So there's no reason why you shouldn't just speak up and say, what the heck is that? One of the things that I really want to focus on is the fact that we have an outstanding administrative team in this district. And as much as I'd like the board to be able to take credit for all the wonderful progress that's occurred here in the last few years, our superintendent, our principals, Seamus, Nancy, all of the people who work with them right down into the trenches are responsible for what is a really impressive turnaround in a school district. In 2015, we were in receivership. 6 years later, we're one of the most outstanding districts in the state in terms of the educational progress that we've made and the growth that our students have shown. So again, it's something that we're all very proud of, but the credit for that belongs here and there, not with us. We just basically try to stay out of the way. But that being said, I do think it's important that we bring with us to our board meetings our own experiences, our own values, and our own interests, and that's what makes an effective board. So again, welcome to everyone, and look forward to the next couple of years.
Doug, I'm sorry, for the reasons we discussed before, I have to leave
Understood.
this time.
Okay.
My apologies to everyone on the board. I'll see you at the next meeting, at the policy meeting too. Thank you.
I was going to say, if you guys want to shove that chair out of the way so you have space, maybe get a more comfortable chair, feel free.
So the next item on our agenda this evening is the agenda review. This is an opportunity for board members to ask that something be added to the agenda, if it's something that they think has been overlooked or that's timely, or if we want to move something around on the agenda, for instance, moving something forward. We often do that for presentations. So at this time, I would ask if anybody would like to make some changes to the agenda as it's been presented this evening. Melanie.
I'd like to make 3 suggestions for the board to consider this evening. One, I would like to move the HVAC presentation, discussion, and possible action item following the children's presentation of the Kid Governor.
Okay.
The second items that I would like to add are action items to the Board of Education, and it would be letter J under new business, discussion, and possible action. And it would be, letter J would read, approve BOE ARP ESSER homeless children and youth grant in the amount of $10,196. And letter K, I would suggest under new business, discussion, and possible action. Nor am I going too fast?
A little bit, under letter
Okay.
K.
Got it. Would be the Cloder Farms barn quote in the amount of $80,804.
So we have suggested items, 3 suggested changes to the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve those?
I make a motion to approve all 3 items to the agenda.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Are there any against or abstentions? It's unanimous, thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, we can move on to our presentations.
Yes, so I would like to invite Mrs. Silverio and Mr. John Coloma, our library media specialist teacher, and our principal of Pearson, to the front to open the floor. Barb, do you want to open the shutter on the projector? Hopefully it's still doing it. Nope, the black. Seamus, can you help to get that set up while they introduce? second. It's going. Sorry, I'm not shouting out my computer password across the room. You're so close. All right, there you go.
Good evening, board members and students. Welcome to our board meeting, and citizens and colleagues. Thank you so much for allowing us this opportunity to share information with you about Kid Governor. We are so excited to have our students, and I know they are eagerly awaiting the opportunity to share their platforms with you. I'd like to thank our board members for enthusiastically encouraging us to engage in civics programs like this one. The Kid Governors program is very exciting. It provides our fifth graders, exclusively for fifth graders in the state of Connecticut, opportunities to engage in civics programs, to consider ways that they can encourage positive change in the community, and to practice their speaking and presentation skills, which is a great opportunity for them. I'd like to thank Mr. Coloma, who's worked so hard in preparing our students, has coached students through the process, and let our students know that we are so very proud of you for taking some risks to get out there and share your platforms, and for being excited about making change and being involved in government at a very young age. So without further ado, thank you, Mr. Coloma. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Hello, everybody. John Coloma. I'm the library media specialist at Pearson. I teach third grade at the Oak Street School. Connecticut Kid Governor is a program. It's a national award-winning program that encourages kids to take part in their community, encourages civic engagement and an immersive experience. We did a primary in our school, and they all voted in a statewide election. It was pretty fun, I think. Okay, so the students, all of the students, not just the four here in front of you, they learn about the role of governor. They learn about role of governor, the three branches of government in the state and at the national level, voting rights history and the importance of voting, how to create and vet a campaign platform, and how kids can make a difference, which is probably my favorite part of this entire project. Our fifth grade students viewed other student-made campaign videos from across the state. They vetted them, they analyzed them, and according to the platform, that was the big emphasis, was that they were to be looking at the platform, not so much the candidate, not so much all of the shine and the gleam on the videos, but the platform. What did they care about? They voted in a statewide Kid Governor election over the past week. Polls closed tonight at 5, and we do have the results of that, and I can hand that out to you, how our kids voted. But our candidates addressed these issues: helping those who face hunger, preventing littering, bullying awareness, and improving our parks. These are the issues that our students chose to tackle. Community issues, these were things that they thought were important to them. Without further ado, I'm going to let the kids take over, because this is their spot. So Amaya, please come up here.
Mr. Coloma, do you want to help her to get her microphone set and ready?
You can take your mask down too.
Hello, my name is Amaya, and I'm in the 5th grade. The community issue I want to fix is littering. One step we can do is provide more garbage cans to the community. We can also take time to go out looking for litter with a trash bag. 3, you can also make signs to raise awareness about littering. Thank you for listening to what I have to say, and have a great rest of your night.
Next up, we have Mr. Donovan R. here. Come on up.
Next president of the board.
Donovan, you can take your
It works, Donovan, I promise.
Okay. Hello, my name is Donovan Ritchie, and my platform is helping those who face hunger. I'm in grade 5, and here are my 3 reasons. Number 1, you can donate to your local food banks and soup kitchens. Number 2, volunteer at your local soup kitchens. And number 3, give leftover vegetables from gardens to people in need. Thank you for your time. Peace out.
With Donovan, and now we have Caitlin with bullying awareness.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Arazo, and I'm in 5th grade. My platform is bullying awareness. 3 steps that we can take is, number 1, raise awareness in Connecticut schools. Number 2, have activities that involve teamwork and ways to build bonds. Number 3, have activities that allow kids to learn more about each other's languages, cultures, and put differences aside. Thank you for listening to my platform. It means a lot to me to share my platform with everyone. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Your friend, Caitlin.
Jaden is next. Her platform is improving our parks, but Jaden won our school primary. So Jaden was entered into the pool of other contestants from all over the state. There's a board at the Connecticut Old State House that picks 7 different candidates for the statewide election. Unfortunately, Jaden was not chosen for the statewide election, but she did win our school primary, and she's here right now speaking with you. And I think all of our students here, I don't think that this is over for them. So, Jaden, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jaden Severson, and my platform is improving parks. First, we can make more park handicap accessibles. What I mean by that is adding more stuff for handicap. We can do this by having rollout mats that face the park, and we can also add stuff to the beach. Second, more trash cans. We should add more trash cans so the park is not dirty. Third, more park rangers to stop vandalism and also provide fun programs for our community. Thank you for listening to my platform today. Have a good night.
So those are our Pearson School Kid Governor candidates. There was a schoolwide election, and they all, I thought, did a wonderful job. I'm going to hand out to you, this is just a graph that shows the things that the students at Pearson School, our 5th graders, voted on. These are our election results. So if you wanted to know from your be informed about what your constituents care about, this is it.
Awesome, thank you.
Here you go. And thank you very much. I think it meant a lot to our students, so thank you.
All right.
Thank you for coming today.
Thank you. So I just want to say, ladies and gentlemen that just presented, I've watched you over the past week practice and get ready to do your presentations this evening, and I could not be more proud of how you handled yourself in a very busy room tonight with many eyes on you. I'm very, very proud of how poised and how well-spoken every one of you were this evening. So thank you for your hard work, and thank you for your creativity around picking topics that really meant a lot to you. So you did a wonderful job.
I think the board agrees with everything that Melanie just said. You guys are very impressive, very poised and very articulate, and thank you so much for coming tonight. We enjoyed hearing from you.
So at this time, parents, students, you're always welcome to stay for the Board of Education meeting. However, I do know that bedtime is coming soon. So if your parents would like to, we'll give you a minute to excuse yourself from the meeting if you would like to leave. Otherwise, you're welcome to stay. Nancy, is the gentleman for the HVAC here? Yes. Yes? There he is.
The next item on our agenda this evening, due to the change, is a presentation on the HVAC system. It's going to be contemplated for Pearson School, so thank you very much.
Would you like to come up to the chair? Yes. And we're expecting about a 10-minute presentation-ish.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that everyone had a chance to read the draft copy of the report that we did eventually get to you. It's going to be hard to follow that group, I'll tell you. But, so we were asked, Silver Petroselli, my name's Ken Eldridge, I'm the Chief Mechanical Engineer over at Silver Petroselli, and we were asked to, yeah, thank you. We were asked to assess the equipment and the systems that are at the Pearson Middle School, and it's not something that we're uncommonly doing these days because of the issues that are at hand, namely COVID and ventilation, and just the aging inventory of a lot of the equipment that tends to be in our buildings as we speak. And so what we did was we kind of, based on an existing structure, there's limitations to the kind of upgrades that are available and without intensive disruption to the facilities usually. And what we do is we've seen in the past several common contenders for how to keep the building and upgrade its systems. Namely at Pearson, there is no air conditioning for the most part. And so air conditioning is, in our days, it was considered a luxury, but it is becoming with, you know, all the reasons that you would think so, climate change and extending the school year into the summers and off hours. We're seeing that air conditioning is actually becoming a necessity. Asthmatics benefit from it, and believe it or not, children in general are more productive, and test grades are increased when air conditioning is added, and ventilation as well. Student absenteeism is dropped, and you know, there are other benefits as well. So what we did was to provide a couple of options, and there's sort of what is in the toolbox for an existing building. First of all, just to point out, having an existing building is a wise choice to begin with. It's one of the more sustainable ways of providing an environment for children. It eliminates a lot of waste in the landfill by taking it down, and a disruption to the teaching process, land use, etc. And so kudos to trying to keep that as part of the option. So namely, what we did was we came up with several options. We came up with the VRF upgrade, which is just an acronym for variable refrigerant flow. Most people know these. I'm looking around because they do tend to be quite common as split ductless systems. They can both provide heating and cooling, and they have an inherent benefit of being able to exchange heat and cooling simultaneously. So it's a kind of a free energy exchange, and that is a benefit, and it makes it one of the more efficient ways to provide heating and cooling in any sort of situation. These things are either rejecting heat to the air via a condensing unit that is on a roof or at grade, and they can also be coupled with a water system. For example, geothermal is an option, and cooling towers are an option. So I was asked to also expand upon the geothermal part of this, and although we didn't look into it in depth, it's generally something that we see as being owner desire driven. And that is due to the extended outlay of capital that the geothermal wells cause. Each well can get you about 1.5 to 2 tons of cooling. And for a building of this size, we're talking about 200 plus tons. So the number of wells is substantial. Each well, without any kind of subsidy, can run to about $9,000 to $12,000. Plus there's the circulation systems and all the other things. But just the well side of the equation alone tends to make these a little bit difficult to sell. If that's something that you'd rather have us pursue a little bit further, as I said, this is a draft copy, and we can actually pursue that further and draw out a little bit more detail on that. The second option that we had proposed was for an Rtu upgrade. Simply put, it's a rooftop air conditioning unit. They're generally packaged systems, highly efficient, and they have a lot of advantages by being able to treat all the outdoor air that comes into the system, provide 100% outdoor air economizer, and do what we're calling demand controlled ventilation, which is actually only bringing in enough air to offset the occupancy of the room. Therefore, if children aren't in the room, the classroom, or in the space, the outdoor air cuts back to save energy. It's a highly efficient and effective way of saving money in an air conditioning and heating system. And furthermore, if gas is available, we can get some very efficient gas conversion as well. The last selection that we were prepared to provide a description on was a chiller upgrade. Now, chillers, we listed that as sort of the third option because they do come inherent with a large capital cost. If we were to have to locate this on a roof or in a room, there would be structural implications, meaning additional cost to support the equipment. They're a little bit on the noisy side, so if you have neighbors, a lot of things have to happen in order to make these neighbor-friendly. And lastly, there's a huge capital upfront cost to a chiller system, and maintenance is a little more difficult as well. So as you can see, we came with a couple of rough estimates as to where these options fall. And with the VRF system, we priced that out at nearly $6,847,500 for the Rtu upgrade option. We came at $9,828,500. I'm sorry, that's the chiller upgrade. And the Rtu upgrade was $9,130,000. So obviously the VRF came out ahead of all the other options, but not to mention the intangibles that come with a system like a VRF system. The inclusion of the ductwork and piping needed to support these types of systems is very small. So that means not that much has to happen architecturally or structurally to the building to get these systems installed. They're quiet, and like I said before, they're highly efficient in any kind of form that you're willing to try to install. Water-cooled, air-cooled, etc. You probably already have them in the building as we speak, just to serve ancillary areas, and that is basically because they're a good fit on an existing platform. So we also just kind of let you know of some of the conditions that we had encountered in the building. We saw spot cooling taking place, which was rejecting air through open windows. Obviously fairly noisy, but they do the trick when it's necessary. We found the age of the equipment was very old and past its normal useful service life. We saw some equipment that was downright non-functioning, and we did witness a lot of deterioration and inoperability due to maintenance that had been kind of deferred when it should have been kept up. The building does have a control system, and that is a saving grace, although with that being said, it could be a little bit on the obsolete side, but it seems to be functioning well. So with that, I'd certainly like to take any kind of questions or if you have anything.
Can you give us any idea of what the comparative operational costs are of the three options, which would consume more electricity and rank them that way?
Sure. The operational costs are going to be based on a little bit more of a simulation in the energy model, and we really didn't have the funding or the go-ahead to do that much of an in-depth dive. But for the most part, I can tell you that the VRF system is all electric. Not to say that it's electric heating coils, but to say that it is using compressors to do the heating and cooling. However, those compressors are highly efficient and run at different rates to right size for the situation. In other words, they're not always acting at a peak rate. So those tend to run high on the electricity, low on the fossil fuel. Whereas the upgrades to the RTUs, that's going to be a combined electrical for the air conditioning and gas for the heating. So those two things come into play, and we'd have to kind of get a model together to see if that's a benefit or not. Gas rates are being told to us to be having to go up very shortly, to the tune of maybe 30%. So that could affect a decision like that as well. Chillers are all electric to the point where you're getting a decent efficiency on the chiller part, but you also have to add in water flow and maintenance to a system that's rather difficult to maintain off the shelf. It would probably require a service contract. So I think if we were to go into next steps, and operational costs would be something that is a deal breaker on any one of these types of systems, we could do that, but just know that now you're not paying for 100% air conditioning, and so the operational costs are going to increase as a result of any of these systems that you install.
In order of magnitude, is it feasible to think that you could put in a solar panel array that would offset a substantial amount of the additional cost if you were to go with the VRF option?
It absolutely is, sure, and you have real estate to put that up on the roof or on the grounds, if you'd like. And those kinds of things do offset, but they don't 100% offset in most cases, especially 100% air conditioning upgrades.
Melanie, is there any sort of town initiative to start using public space and solar arrays, like police department, fire department, public schools?
I need to refer that back to our town manager at this point. At this point, I'm not aware, but in terms of, hearing the numbers tonight, I just want to point out that, part of this funding would come from our ARP and ESSER funds, which fully support increase in HVAC and clean air initiatives. The other piece of that is through project-based funding through the school construction office, through the Department of Administrative Services. Winchester gets a 72% reimbursement rate for projects that qualify. This would be a qualifying project. Thereby, between the money that we get off of the ARP ESSER funding, the reimbursement that the state would cover versus what our bill would be, and monies that we've set aside for projects such as this, the Board of Education would be able to fully fund without having any impact on going to the town for additional funding.
So the solar array thing offset his question. You said it could be set up to receive?
It would certainly
Like
supplement.
Ready, like shovel ready to bring in a solar array if the town were to go that way?
Yeah, absolutely. And we could do that, or you could go with a contractor that is qualified to do that kind of installation. I would say probably doing it simultaneously would be the best bet, because you certainly want to be able to have the power ready to receive into the HVAC systems rather than to generate the power and then install.
Right, ideally. But that's a lot of work.
The other thing to consider in conversation with solar, if you're doing roofing solar, we would want to have a roof assessment done to make sure that we're not installing solar on a roof that would end up needing replaced 5 to 10 years down the road, because then that would be not a good financial situation. That would not be a wise financial situation to encounter so close together.
That would be a major project.
Do any other board members have questions on the HVAC system?
Yes.
Yep, sorry.
Does the ducting, I know you said it was antiquated, is that going to need to be replaced down the road, or is that repairable?
Some of the ducting could be repurposed for sure, but with the existing systems, they really don't have ducts. They're sitting up in units that sit up against the wall, and they're just piped into the room that way. So any of the ducts that we'd be talking about would be small ventilation ducts to serve the VRF units, fresh air. And so they'd be rather small, tempered. It would be a dedicated unit to serve all those units. But we could probably scavenge some of the existing ductwork, obviously clean it, and then repurpose it as a main trunk line to do distribution to other units.
Any other questions at this time?
So just so I'm clear, you're recommending option one?
Yeah, I would. I mean, we can go into it a little bit further. Once we issue the final report, we can maybe highlight some of the pros and cons a little bit more in depth for option one, but it's going to be the most cost-effective capitally and the most efficient system that's available with the least intrusion to building components.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming tonight and bringing all that information. Just a couple things I want to get to before I forget. I'd like to welcome Mr. Shagru, who is in the back there. He is the head of schools at Gilbert School, and he's joined us this evening. So welcome, Greg. Thank you very much for coming. For those of you who don't know him, he is newly hired at Gilbert this year, and we're great to have, just very, very pleased to have him.
Good to hear.
And also, I did want to mention that on our agenda, there's a item for committee assignments. Typically, well, actually, our bylaws indicate that committees are formed in the December meeting. What I would like all of the board members to do is to email me between now and December 1st with the committees that you would like to serve on, and I'll assemble the committees based on preference as best I can. Okay, so the next item is public comment, and we'd like to remind everybody that this is in fact a meeting of the Board of Education in public. It's not a public meeting, and for that reason we do have some regulations and constraints on how that portion of our meeting is conducted. Each person who would like to speak is allotted 3 minutes under Board Policy 1120. We ask that no Board of Education employee, student, or community member be defamed with public comment. But if you would like to speak, please let us know.
That's the rules of public comment.
Yes? Oh, you did? Okay. All right, and could you give us your name?
Michelle Hintz, 67 Holmes Road in Winstead, former board member. So I just wanted to say congratulations to the members of the board that were re-elected, newly elected members. I wanted to say thank you to Doug for your guidance and your level-headedness throughout the last 6 years. You've really brought a calm to the Board of Education, really pushed us to work together as a team. Want to thank Mel, central office. You guys were definitely more than adequate. You guys have done an amazing job over the last 6 years with bringing the district to where it is. Everybody in the district truly is here for the kids, and it does show. So for the new Board of Ed members, I want to pass along some information that we were taught when the receiver was here, and we had to go through CAPE training. Couple things that have stuck with me, and I'm sure the other members that have gone through CAPE training feel the same way. First thing, keep the politics and your personal agenda at the door. This board is unlike any other board in the community because it is all about the kids. The kids are not pawns. You can't use them for your political agendas. You can't use them for your personal agendas. Be respectful. It is good to have differing opinions, but once the vote has been completed, accept it. If you guys continue to argue and keep fighting about topics, that was one of the reasons that the state came in. That's one of the reasons we were put into receivership. You're not going to accomplish anything. That's only going to hurt the district. It's going to hurt the kids. Know your seat on the bus and stay in it. Understand what is your role as a Board of Education member and don't overstep it. You're only going to get in Mel's way. You're going to get in central office's way, the principal's way, and again, that's going to make our district go back to where it was 6 years ago. Ask questions and learn. If you don't understand something, ask the question. It doesn't have to be here in the board meeting. Doug and Mel, central office, they are always more than willing. They respond immediately to emails, phone calls, ask questions. So the receivership and CAVE could not emphasize enough to us as the board that this board is about the kids. Inner fighting, politicalness, personal agendas, stepping over your boundaries, and just generally not working together will not only hurt this board, it's going to hurt the community, it's going to hurt our kids, and it's going to bring our district back to where it was 6 years ago. We have come so far in the last 6 years. I really wish all of you guys good luck in continuing the hard work. Just work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. We'll miss you.
Miss you already.
Tara.
Hi, my name is Tara Sunday. I don't have anything formally prepared really, but I just wanted to say that it's been a pleasure to serve alongside 8 really very bright and dedicated volunteers. And I just wanted to also formally thank those who are in attendance as well this evening. Thanks for your guidance and your patience, for always being encouraged to ask questions. I took advantage of that. I know a lot, and I'm glad that I did. And so many of you even reached out just to let me know that you were there, even personally, or just kind of took me aside, just so I didn't have to always be embarrassed in front of a crowd of people. Thanks to Melanie and Nancy and all of the. It sounds like I'm making an acceptance speech. It's the opposite. And all of the Winchester Public School administrators for your dedication to the kids. My kid being one of those, and really for providing them with a great education, a multitude of opportunities, and I'm so glad I was here. I'm sorry, my thoughts in your face. And I'm so glad I was here tonight for Kid Governor, because that was something that I'm just so proud that we have that here. And my daughter's in 5th grade, and she told me all about it, so I knew the results before you did. I'm just kidding. And so I'm just really proud to have been provided the opportunity to sit on the BOE, and it was such a great experience. It really was, and I hope everyone else has the same experience. And I'm just wishing everyone the best as we move forward, and thank each and every one of you for serving and staying late on Tuesday nights. That's all.
Thank you, Tara.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak this evening? And I think I have to say that 3 times, so I will. Anybody else would like to speak this evening? Yes.
My name is Christine Rogers.
Can you come to the microphone, please?
I'm sorry to the chair, I could not hear. You said there was, yes, certain people not to speak. I couldn't hear what you said.
No, not at all. Please don't defame anybody. I think that's what I said. Go ahead, you're fine.
I just want to know, was the meeting recorded tonight? When the
Yes.
kids were- It was. So is this going to be available for the public to see? That's what I'm curious
It
about.
is. It's going to be on. Will be on the town website, and
It's being live broadcast right now on our YouTube channel,
Okay.
so that the town that's connected to the town website.
Because last time I asked, I was told it was on Channel 13, and it hasn't been on Channel 13 in years.
It's
Okay.
on channel 194 on the
Okay,
Charter
good.
Network.
Okay. All right,
And
because I could not find it when we went home, all right?
Yeah.
My son went on YouTube, tried to find it, and couldn't find it. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure it was transparent for the town, everybody could see the meeting.
Yes, and I think if you go to the 194 channel on Charter, there's a live stream link on the town website now, so you should be able to find it there. And you mentioned the YouTube. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, on YouTube, there is a Town of Winchester YouTube page that has all of the different town meetings on it. And right now, we're being live streamed on that, and then it automatically, my understanding is, records and keeps a record of it on the YouTube channel.
Oh, okay. Does the public know about this channel? Because I couldn't find it. My son and I could not find it. So-
There's a link right on the bottom of the town website
Okay.
that says live stream, and then if you click on that, it does take you to the YouTube channel, like that Winchester subscribes to, and then you'll see like a whole bunch of little television screens on there, and there's planning and zoning, inland wetlands, Board of Education, Board of Selectmen, they're all listed there, and then you click on the one that you want to see.
Is there any way to send that out to the message to the public so they know where to find this? Because I didn't even know this was.
I can ask our town manager, because we have that large distribution list that he does from his office, to be able to extend that out again if you would like.
That'd be awesome, because I know all the people that I know are in town were not even aware of this.
Absolutely, I think that's a wise idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking. So I'll start over. Would anybody else like to speak this evening? Anybody else like to speak? Going, 3rd time. Any other people want to comment? And we will have a second opportunity for public comment at the end of the meeting, which is something we've just added. Our next item is what we call the consent agenda. And for those of you who are new, it's basically something we do to streamline the meeting a little bit, to try to take some of the busy work out of it and facilitate it. So what we like to do ideally, unless somebody like Chris finds a comma that's misplaced or something, is those of us who have attended the previous meetings that are listed in the minutes would review them, and everyone would agree that the minutes are accurate as presented, and with one motion, we would approve them. Obviously, if you weren't at that meeting, you could choose to abstain, or if you do have some issues with the way the minutes were recorded, you would certainly raise them. So I'm going to ask if there's a motion to approve the 5 items on the consent agenda this evening, understanding that this is a new board and that most of you, or many of you, will not have participated in those meetings. So, Doc is making that motion. Chris, do you have any changes?
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, Chris is a copy editor, so she picks up everything.
Nora, do you have this up by page?
Give me a number and I'll be all right.
15? 5A2.
Okay.
Does that sound correct, mounting? A mounting, or is mounting the correct term?
Continue what is mounting to be a business doesn't relate. Continue to be.
I wasn't sure if the terminology was right. Just seemed a little interesting.
What do you suggest?
I just didn't know if you meant amounting to a very positive
I see.
relationship. I thought maybe that's what you
Amount,
meant.
you're probably right. Yes.
Okay, awesome.
I'll change that.
Page 17,
Yep.
13A1.
Yep.
Line 2, individuals who are religious or medical
Religious or medical. You
have religious or medical exemptions, I think was where that was going.
Yep. I'll get that.
That's all, thank you.
Any others?
No, thank you.
That's it? So at this point, we could, gee, Nora, it's you, me, Chris, and Doc.
Yeah. We need a second as
You can
accepting with the two edits.
accept it with those changes, yes.
I'd say second.
May I have just the Board of Education's attention? Mark Douglas is actually watching this from home. If you could lean into your microphone and speak loudly, so that we can make sure that you can hear.
Seriously. Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Okay, thank you for letting us know. Don't be afraid to just wave. That's good to know. Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second with those amendments. Is all in favor? I think there would be 4 of us, and abstentions would be 4. Okay, so the motion, what happens? with that?
Carries.
I guess it carries, yeah.
It carries,
yeah.
yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Motion carries.
thank you. Our next item is a report on the Gilbert School from the representatives who are on the board, but maybe we could depart from tradition a little bit. And Greg, would you like to use this opportunity to just give us a couple brief sentences on what's going on at school and what? Sure.
Thank you. I wasn't prepared to speak, but I appreciate the opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here. I've always said since day one, I've approached this job as a collaborative effort between the Winchester folks and the folks at Gilbert. So I'm pleased to report that Mel and I have met on multiple times. She has been welcoming, collegial, and nothing but professional in my first 50 some odd days or so. So I look forward to continuing our work together. Things are going well at the Gilbert School. Students are trying to acclimate to school again. Staff is trying to acclimate to school again. It's difficult everywhere. Doing school is difficult for students and staff. And I think from having an 18-month hiatus or a break in the action, I think our students, our staff are adapting well now as we approach this, get into the second quarter. We've got much work to do with respect to professional development. We're doing some curriculum writing, things of that nature, and just really refocusing on good pedagogy, getting grounded in unpacking the CCT, and really getting to work with that, and getting back to some of the basics as we all kind of refamiliarize ourselves with doing school, which, like I said, for the past 18 months has been a hybrid or remote or to something other than what we've been doing. So it's good to be back. It's good to be back in person with all of our students, excuse me, and all of our staff.
Thank you. Greg, at our last curriculum meeting, we discussed the fact that the Winchester Public Schools have elected to stay with the NWEA assessment tests. And we talked a little bit about having some continuity between our school and yours, so that there's some possibilities for apples-to-apples comparisons on student growth and progress. So could you just give us a couple ideas about what your testing regimen is there so people understand it?
Sure, absolutely. This year we developed an assessment calendar. We use some different assessments, SARS, SRI, we use SBEC data, and we use PSAT and SAT data. So there are some simulations, we can draw some correlations between those. But there, NWA, I think is I know in my last district, most of the K6 schools did use NWA. It was a good benchmark and a good assessment for that as well.
Great. Thank you very much, and
You're
thanks for
very
joining
welcome.
us this evening.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
We have two items of correspondence this evening. One is our CABE liaison newsletter, and we also have a letter of resignation. I think the liaison newsletter is in everyone's packet.
Yes,
for your
the
review.
liaison is in there.
But we do have a letter of resignation.
We do. Just to back up, though, on the CABE liaison newsletter, for all new board members in front of you this evening, you should have a CABE new board member informational packet, which is that blue package there wrapped up in a rubber band. So you can weight lift it, you can read with it, you can do what you need to do with it, but it does have a lot of very helpful information to help guide your entry as a new board member to the Board of Education. And that's put out by the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education. And Robert's Rules of Order is included in there as bedtime reading. We do have one letter of resignation. It is from a school nurse that we have recently hired, and that would be at Pearson School. She is taking a position back in the hospital. So we do have an active nursing position open at the Pearson School that we are looking to hire for. So I ask that the board please accept this letter of resignation with regret.
I would move that.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Thank you. Melanie, you're up next for the superintendent's report.
Yes. So for new board members, when I do my superintendent's report on a monthly basis, I think we have someone who's trying to get some attention there. So when we do my monthly presentation of what's going on in the district, there's three areas that I largely focus on. One is instruction, two is operation, and the third is leadership. These are the three core areas that I'm evaluated on. So those are the three core areas that I do speak to. So under instruction for the past month, we have continued our one-on-one support leadership meetings with administrators. We have conducted first-round teacher observations, are 100% complete. All teachers have concluded and finalized their student learning objectives across the district, and that's what teachers are used to be evaluated by. The leadership team has finalized the goal for our school improvement plan. We have conducted interviews and hired for special education and library media specialists. The instructional cabinet meetings have been held, and we've really been focusing a bunch of effort on our data teams, the coaching support that we're providing to our staff, and field experiences for students. Staff and families have been updated on new guidelines for quarantine. The updates have been posted on our COVID informational area of our website. And then just today, actually, the State Department of Education and Department of Public Health have published the official documents guiding the new protocol that is called Screen and Stay, which because, and I'll just expand on this for a moment. So Screen and Stay is a protocol when a student is a direct contact of a positive case within the district. Data has really shown that in-school transmission is very, very low across the state. You know, almost no transmission, and we have had no in-school transmission here in Winchester Public Schools. So what they're allowing now in an effort to be able to have more students attend school and not have to do the 7 or 10 day stay-at-home experience is their parent can attest that they don't have any symptoms, that your child is not coughing, they don't have a runny nose, that they don't have a fever. They can attest on a daily basis, and as long as the parent says that they don't have the symptoms of COVID, those students are allowed to report to school because we are following through with other mitigating factors which help prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Just to be clear, attestation.
Attestation.
Not to test. Attestation.
Yes, attestation. And attestation, just to be clear on that, it is simply an acknowledgement that the parent sends a form in that says, my child has no cough, no fever, no runny nose, no loss of taste or smell, no diarrhea, no vomiting, and so on, those types of symptoms. And then the parent just signs and the child can come into school. So going on, we have our coaching and administrative teams working on a plan for the November 2nd PD, which that has happened already. Families have been sent their monthly attendance letters for more than 5 absences. We have also been working with our school securities consultant to update our security plan, and that will be ready for Hinsdale for August of 22. Amy Kennedy, my intern, has been shadowing and participating in various meetings and experiences. Our administrative team has met. We've been working with our small group presentation. So paraprofessionals, teaching assistants, and non-certified staff in the district are having an extensive learning series right now on how to effectively run small groups within the classroom. So we have 3 staff members, that are on a monthly basis training all of our non-certified staff on how to effectively run small groups in partnership with the classroom teacher. We have finalized the WEA contract. I have also met with the Long Range Planning Committee with the town regarding space for pre-kindergarten, and that ploy continues right now to find additional space. We had an ADA meeting for a staff member, and that's an American with Disabilities Act meeting. I held several Hinsdale School Renovation Committee meetings and biweekly construction meetings. Our head school nurse had coordinated a flu shot clinic for our staff. We also have conducted an IT meeting for Hinsdale to discuss the infrastructure for fiber, internet, security cameras, and electronic door openers. We have completed the rekeying survey at the Pearson School. We have held meetings with the state to discuss our furniture, fixtures, equipment, and packages for Hinsdale. And we also put out a request for proposals for building movers to help move our facilities around come July of 2022. And the finalization of that will be brought to the Board of Education for December of next month. Under leadership, I've attended multiple Department of Public Health meetings, attended a training on legislative updates and their impact on district handbooks, attended the monthly meeting with the Commissioner of Education, participated in Sunday afternoon meetings with the Department of Education, Department of Public Health on the language associated with the updated quarantine guidance. And I will say I'm really happy that the state and DPH did reach out to superintendents to be able to allow us to really provide input on what this new screen and stay protocol would allow for, because truthfully on a weekly basis, we see every day that in-school transmission is almost non-existent and has been non-existent, specifically here in Winchester. Most transmission of COVID-19 happens within the home environment or community environment. So what we're seeing is that it made complete sense to go to a process by which parents could say, yes, my child is healthy, please allow them to come to school, and us be able to honor that. So I was really happy that they really did seek, even though it was 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, prime football time, to be able to provide our on-the-ground input with that direction. And then I have had my biweekly meetings with the Winchester Education Association, and that's our teachers union. I meet every 2 weeks on Thursday mornings around 7:15 with our teachers union, just to make sure that we're keeping on the up and up and making sure that we're addressing any concerns before they become concerns. And then I'm really proud of how our district handled this last one. So we have 2 staff members right now. As you know, Breast Cancer Awareness Month is the month of October, and we have 2 staff members that are fighting very aggressive forms of breast cancer. One of our staff members has been entered into hospice care as of this past Friday. So one of those staff members is still working with us and being able to work actively, and she works extremely hard every day to make sure that she's healthy and happy. But our district really pulled together, along with our community, to pull together a breast cancer fundraiser for the benefit of the 2 families. And I'm happy to report that we had raised over $7,000 for the 2 families. So each family was able to get a substantial check out of that, and we split that 50-50 between the 2 families to help support some of the medical costs associated with their forms of breast cancer and their care. So both families have said that they are extremely thankful and appreciative of all the efforts that everybody cooked. Thank you.
Thank you. Mel, before you move on, just one thing under operations.
Yes.
The last time we met, there was some discussion that the Bank of America building, which the town owns, because Bank of America deeded it over, would potentially be available to us for Ed Advance programs. And apparently that's not going to happen.
So right now, at Advance, so let me explain how this works. So there's the public school system that can run preschool education, and then there's the Office of Early Childhood that oversees the federal programs of Head Start and school readiness. Both of those entities have different requirements for school buildings or locations of these programs. School readiness and Head Start has much more stringent facility requirements than a regular public school does. So Ed Advance brought their construction consultants out that deal with the building infrastructure of what is needed for Head Start and school readiness. After reviewing the Bank of America building, realizing that the second floor is really not a viable option. The first floor would be a potential viable option, but with a lot of changes to the building. Ed Advance is looking to investigate some other opportunities within the town, and one of those looks to be like a portion of Oak Street School. So Ed Advance is really taking the lead right now on looking for an alternative space at this moment for those 2 programs.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So going on into the next section of the report, we have our Winchester enrollment data. Happy to report that, again, we still have the highest enrollment we've had in about 8 years within the district. The whole district enrollment for just Bachelor, Oak Street, and Pearson School sits at 559 students. For the Nexus, which includes out-of-district placements, magnets, and VOAG students, the whole district enrollment for K-6 would be 673. We currently have over 100 kindergarten students, so we have 101 as of today, because this is dated as of November 1st, and Ms. Field is telling me right now we had 3 more additions to our kindergarten class today, so we have a gigantic kindergarten class of about 104 coming up, so they're growing.
And now that compares to the 42 seniors we have
Yeah,
exiting.
absolutely. So you can definitely see Winchester is definitely bucking the trend in terms of Litchfield County right now. So Litchfield County in general, if you speak in general terms, with the exception of Winstead and Torrington, is seeing a decline in a lot of population. Winstead and Torrington are seeing the very opposite of that, and we are seeing an increase in population, and we're feeling that right now in the schools. So, and we're also seeing it data-wise with what we're seeing coming in. Going into the next report we have, which is our chronic absenteeism report, our average daily attendance across the district right now is, as of October, was 93%. And the chronic absenteeism rate for the month of October for the district was 14.9. I'm glad to see that number is coming down. I expect with screen and stay and students being able to come to school now without having to quarantine unless they're symptomatic, obviously, I expect that number to continue to decline. So I'm really happy to see that happening. Under the Gilbert presentation of enrollment, Winchester has 422 students at the Gilbert School. We have 17 international enrollments at Gilbert, one other out-of-district placement, or out-of-district enrollment, excuse me, for a total enrollment at the Gilbert School of 440 students. On the next page, you can see the grade-by-grade breakdown of the enrollments by grade. 7th grade has 74, 8th has 95, 9th has 91, 10th has 54, 11 has 66, and 12th has 42 for the total enrollment of 422. I'm going to ask that Ms. O'Day-Wyrick come up to the podium there, table, and be able to speak to our financial reports for the month of October 31st.
Nancy, I know you always do a great job of explaining this to us, but maybe even do even a little bit more for the new folks so they understand the operational budget, the grant budget, the town support for education. So,
be glad to.
Thank you.
So I want to call your attention to the sheet. It's on page 32 here, and this is the appropriated. Thank you. This is the appropriated budget, and this is the what we call our Fund 1, and it's broken out into general categories that are easy for the board to look at for financial management purposes. So the first category is wages, the next category are benefits, then we get, and so we have total personnel costs, and then we get into the non-personnel costs that include professional technical services, that's legal, that's the audit, that's contracted substitute services that we have to buy on occasion, property services, which is predominantly repairs and maintenance, snow removal, refuse removal, things that keep the facilities going. And pupil transportation are the vans and the buses. Special ed out-of-district tuition is just what it says. It's for students that we have to send out of district to service. The Gilbert School tuition is very straightforward. Our other purchase services, the 5XX line includes the Hvac tuition we pay to Region 7, to Northwestern, and it also includes magnet services that we have to pay for. It includes adult education, tuition, those sorts of things. The supplies include instructional supplies is the biggest chunk, although we didn't have a lot of funding to fund a big chunk, which I'll get to the variances next. And it also includes things like electricity and gas, which are counterintuitive when you look at supplies. You don't necessarily think of that as being a supply. And then if we look at equipment and software, it's basically hardware, computers and such, servers if we should have to buy one, a little bit of furniture, but we've been very fortunate with funding and previous grants that we are in pretty good shape with our furniture and such now. And then finally, there are the dues and fees for the professional organizations, CAPE being the biggest one, that provided all that documentation for you all to read through going forward. So I'm going to hop to the last column. I can get into the middle if you wish, but I want to take you across the top just to orient you to the chart. So we have the adopted budget column, then we have what's been spent to date, then we have what's been encumbered, which is another way of saying it's been committed or contracted for. And then we have the balance. Then we have adjustments, things that I anticipate or know of that are coming forward, but they are not actually entered into the accounting system yet. And then you have the projected year end that I am sharing with the board this evening. So generally, I focus on the projected year end column. And I can tell you that there's been a lot of churn in the staff, and we've lost some folks that we've had for a few years who have left us, but they've been replaced with people who are less expensive. We've had to really lay out some money for a few people coming in to get the talent that we needed, but that's part of why there isn't a lot, why there is so much money showing in that balance right now. And there are some new people who are coming on that will probably start to crunch that amount down, but we didn't know who we were hiring yet, so stay tuned on that. You'll see the hiring documentation probably next month or the month after. When we get to the employee benefits, something we have not had a lot of is retirements, and we are suddenly hearing a lot of chatter of retirements, and so we're expecting a few staff retirements. And that is driving over 50% of that projected year-end balance because of language embedded in contracts for long-time employees who have the opportunity to be paid out for chunks of sick time that they have not taken. So that leaves us with a balance of just over $100,000 in personnel expense. Professional technical services is running pretty close to what is in the budget. Maintenance and repair, also fairly close. Typically what happens with maintenance and repair, because of the deferred maintenance that Winchester is very well known for, if we don't have a wicked winter and use up a lot of money to remove snow, oftentimes those monies can be repurposed to do long-needed repairs in the buildings. The pupil transportation line, we have been, don't know if you're all aware of this, but we typically would contract for as many as 9 buses, which is what our standard contract is. All-Star has only been billing us for 7 because they've had trouble even cobbling 7 together. We are in the process of talking to them about making further adjustments because there are some days they've only been able to run 5 or 6. And 2 vans instead of 3. So they've had to rework a lot of bus routes. Mel has spent a lot of time on the phone and putting out information to parents about changes in bus pickup and delivery for the kiddos. So we're working through that, and All-Star is working, of course, to get more drivers and has a number in queue, but again, it's a matter of timing. The special ed out-of-district tuition, we have not been hit too hard this year yet, but I understand that there are some new people that are circling. What typically happens is districts will hold on to very expensive students until after the 1st of October, so those students count in their student count, and then the students go elsewhere, and sometimes that's to Winchester. So stay tuned on that when I expect that balance to come down too. Gilbert's dual tuition, they ended up billing us for a bit more than we expected, but we can sustain that. Our other purchase services, again, is coming in quite close to what was budgeted, or will be coming in quite close. The supplies, the big overage there is for instructional supplies. We lost 2 very large grants that we had had for the past 5 years in Commissioner Network grants, and they were very generous with supplies and equipment. And we did not have that this year, and we had to put our money towards other things first. And so this is a kind of a wish list for instructional supplies as the need arises. So that's going to be a judgment call as we go through the year. The same with the equipment and software. Again, the loss of those 2 big Commissioner Network grants. And that brings us to a projected total right now of $218,759 at year end. I will call to the board's attention that there are two other lines on this report at the very bottom. The first one is called Fund 12 Non-Lapsing Fund. And to balance with the town, we agreed that we would utilize $120,000 of our non-lapsing fund if it was necessary to get us through the coming year. And so that's why that line is in there for us to monitor, and I'm trying very hard not to touch it, of course. And then the Medicaid reimbursements are coming in very nicely for our special ed services. So that seems to be running on track.
Thank you, Nancy. I think at some point, maybe now, if Melanie could explain for the benefit of our new board members the fact that Winchester has been an alliance district for the last few years and also a member of the Commissioners Network, and how many millions of dollars that's brought into the district to help build capacity in our schools. So if you could just give us a rundown, because that's going to impact some of the grant information Nancy will talk about next.
Absolutely. So I'll start with what we currently still are. So we still are an alliance district and will remain an alliance district for the foreseeable future, because in the legislation that surrounds alliance districts enter, but there's no legislative language to leave. So you will be...
Can you explain what that actually is?
Yeah, so originally when the district was in receivership in that time frame, so we're talking about 6-7 years ago, when the district was in a lot of shambles, both academically, financially, lots of stuff going on. The state had come in receivership and identified the district as one of the 30 lowest performing districts within the state of Connecticut. Those 30 lowest performing districts in the state of Connecticut at the time were identified as alliance districts. So there's legislation around funding that comes to us from the state. In particular, Winchester gets, I believe, $206,000 off the top of my head.
$200,966.
$200,966 to be precise, annually from the Alliance grant that is funded from the State Department of Education. We use that money to be able to fund reading specialists, interventionists, and it's used to be able to support academic interventions for students. So we, right now, are performing above state average in math, reading, and science, and our goals and our targets are above state average. So we no longer fit in the bottom 30, happily, which is a great thing. However, there's no exit language in Alliance, so we still are benefiting from the financial benefits of Alliance while not performing in that lower echelon. So that's one piece of the puzzle. Does anyone have questions on that? Okay. The second piece that is expired at this point, when the receivers had come in, they had Winchester join what is called the Commissioners Network of Schools. And this was a group of schools that really focused on turnaround efforts. And there was substantial money provided to each one of these school districts or schools. We had 2 schools in the network at the time during the 5 years, and that just ended this June 30th. We had Bachelor in there, and we had Pearson. And over the course of the 5 years that Bachelor and Pearson benefited as being part of a turnaround program, the district had gotten between $6 and $7 million from the state to be able to fund staffing, intervention, curriculum revisions, assessment revisions, being able to literally just soup to nuts restructure our entire district to be able to get where we are currently at right now. Now, currently, what that grant did at the time was the state started, it was a grant that you weaned off of over time. So in the first year of the grant, let's just say Nancy's position, a teacher was covered in that grant. The state at that time in the first year said, okay, state's going to fund that 100% in the grant for that first year. But as you went through the course of the 5 years, the second year, the state funded, let's just say 90% of that, and now Winchester had to absorb 10% of that. And the following year, it might have been cut down to 75% the state was able to cover in the grant and 25% here. And it worked its way down throughout the course of the 5 years of getting to the point where Winchester needed to be able to sustain the staffing or the needs that came through the grant. And we did that. So some of those positions, and that's where a lot of the instructional monies were living, were in the Commissioner's Network grant. We really tightened our bootstraps a little bit around how much we were spending on instructional supplies and built sustainability over the course of time with our staffing, our professional development, and the services that we could provide to students beyond the existence of the grant. Because what we didn't want to do is create this wonderful program for 5 years, but when the 6th year came, poof, everything disappeared and you didn't have anything left to stay. So we worked really hard to develop a sustainability model so that all of that money was wisely spent so that we could sustain and continue to grow and benefit from that money from years to come. Does anyone have any questions?
I would just add to what you just said, and that is that, as I hope you all recall, we did get about a 4% increase in our budget from the town this year. And one of our main arguments when we presented our budget to the town was that the state had been funding programs on behalf of Winchester for a number of years, and they had made clear at the outset they had an expectation that when their funding diminished or went away entirely, they wanted or expected the town of Winchester to understand the value of the programs that they've been funding and pick up the ball and fund them ourselves. And that's why when we went to the town this past year, we said, now is the time for us to step up to the plate and fund some of these programs that have resulted in such great student performance improvement. So just to throw that in.
Just as part of the orientation, on the next page. Oh, sorry, I wasn't close enough. So on the next page, it says summary operating budget. It was right behind the appropriated budget that I first spoke to. I just wanted to make the new folks aware that if you look at this sheet, it has the town appropriation, which is a summary of what I just went through with you all. But then to the right of that, it says town support for education. And these are funds that the town has made available to us basically for operational costs, facility costs, communications, postage, oil, heating oil, those sorts of costs. So those are what those cover. And then, of course, the grant page, which Melanie and Doug spoke to.
So our grant page looks really healthy right now, to the tune of over $2,095,517, because we have not expended our ARP and our ESSER, American Rescue Funds, bless you, funds yet. So just so you're aware, that number will deplete as we spend those funds.
Well, to tie that right back to the presentation that Ken just gave us from Silver Petroselli, the two biggest chunks in the projected year-end numbers relate more to the HVAC project that we're hoping to do. So these grants have timelines on them, so there's also a time element that's after us. So just to share that.
Thank you, Nancy, for sharing this information.
Thank you, Nancy. And in the past, our board has operated on the assumption that the Finance Committee of the Board of Education consists of the entire board. So, because we wanted to have as much participation as we could. So, you will have opportunities when we have Finance Committee meetings to get into this in greater detail and ask any questions. Of course, you can do it now, but that's usually when we get down into the more detailed discussions.
Nancy, could you, while you're there, excuse me, on the next page is the daily meals volume for food service.
Oh,
Would
yes.
you be able to just speak to the food service, please?
Yes, so we're responsible for running the food service program, and we're responsible for running it without hitting any of the taxpayers for money. It's supposed to be a break-even program. which has been a struggle in some previous years. But we are creeping towards being in the black. I'm projecting a 4,400 and change balance at year end at this time. I am delighted to report, if you flip through and you see that there's a graph on page
35.
35, thanks, Mel. And the graph depicts a comparison of meal volumes last year versus meal volumes this year. And as you can see, September, the green is the lunches, has far out past the prior year, as have the breakfasts. Today, I just got the volume numbers, and these books were already published, but I got the volume numbers, and they're up again 7% over September. So it's just, I mean, the kids are participating, and well-fed kids learn better. So there you go.
Could you give us a couple sentences on the free and reduced lunch status that the community enjoys so everybody understands that?
So we are participating with what's called the community eligibility provision. And the reason that we're able to participate in that is because at least two-thirds of our students are eligible for free or reduced lunch. And we were able to request that status, and that enables everyone to have free and reduced breakfast and lunch. If they want a second meal or an a la carte item, they have to pay for it, but the meals themselves are, the first meal is free.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you. So the next piece is super exciting. We have our update on our Hinsdale School Project. We are still scheduled to be able to open Hinsdale for the upcoming school year. And some of the things that we've covered over the past month and coming up is we are continuing the final, they're called MEPs, mechanical, electrical, plumbing work continues with the rough-ins right now. The roof installation material will be selected and finalized. Hopefully, we haven't done that yet. I'm hoping by Thursday we're gonna select and finalize the roofing material. The oil tank on the Brook side of the building has been removed, and that has already been backfilled and leveled. The interior slabs for the bathrooms have been studded out, and the rough plumbing is installed, and that's actually one of the pictures that you can see here. The slab foundation for the new section of the building should have been poured this week, so I'm assuming with the beautiful weather that is the case. The sprinkler lines from Hinsdale Avenue, if you got stuck in the little traffic jam about a week ago, that was due to the sprinkler lines on Hinsdale Avenue and us bringing the lines into the building, so that has been connected. And they are working on framing and blocking right now of interior walls. All of that is being roughed in. And in the pictures that I've provided for you today, the first picture is of the bathrooms, and you can see the plumbing installations on the bottom are roughed in. The second picture on the right is where the sprinkler lines had come in off of Hinsdale Avenue from the road into the building. The third picture at the top, you can see the roughing in of the ductwork, and that room that you're looking at right there is actually the Library Media Center. The picture in the middle is a picture of where the old oil tank was removed. That's a picture of it still in the ground, but they have removed it since. And then the bottom picture on the left is a picture of the frontage of the newly built one-story section addition for kindergarten and preschool.
Melanie and I had a chance to talk about the Hinsdale Project a little bit early today, and as a lot of you know, there's some supply chain issues going on in our country right now. And fortunately, the Hinsdale construction project has been avoiding most of those. However, there is one item which is causing some issues, and that is the rigid foam insulation that was going to be put on the roof of the new portion of the structure. And that will not be available till October of 2022. So as a consequence, there's been some changes in the design, and I think they're putting a minimal amount of foam on the roof, deck of the roof underneath the rubber membrane, but they're going to spray foam underneath the roof. So that should not impact the date, but until not too long ago, we were expecting the building to be ready in, I believe it was June, but then we encountered a sanitary line issue, so now we're looking at the end of July, which is a little tight, but we're hopeful it's going to still happen.
Yes, we are on them every day.
Remember the sanitary line that wasn't pitched properly, and it was,
So in the original building of Hinsdale, so if you're in Hinsdale where the foyer is in the front of the building, where that main entrance was, where the curve of the road, back by the playground areas, the hallway that goes to the right and the hallway that goes to the left, the pitch that was the main sanitary line in the building, when it was originally designed back in, I think it was 1988, that section was redone, was pitched incorrectly. So the septic line that would take, business out to the roads that go down the main line was pitched incorrectly. So that caused some issues. So they, at this time right now, dug up the entire sanitary line that ran down the corridor, and we had to repitch the entire corridor sanitary line so that the waste would drain to where the waste needed to go.
Thank you.
And that was handled by the Hinsdale School Renovation Committee in discussion with the contractors over there.
we now have the board action items on the agenda, and in some ways, it's a little bit of a misnomer. For instance, under new hires, the Board of Education only hires one person, and that's the superintendent of schools. However, for informational purposes, Melanie lets us know who's been hired, just so we know what's going on in terms of new people that we're adding to the staff. So that would be the first item under action items, which actually doesn't require action, but it's informative.
So we've hired a speech and language pathologist assistant. If you've been following this queue, we've had a really difficult time filling speech and language pathologist positions across the state. I think there's 80 to 100 openings right now because there's just not the number of certified people available for the position. So we've hired a speech and language pathologist assistant, which is trained to be able to help service our students. So she's not fully certified to write special individualized education plans. She has to be overseen by a speech and language pathologist in our district, but she is allowed to service students as an assistant level. So we've been able to move forward with her. The other hire we had was Jenna Guillermo, and this position here is in the position of special education teacher. I believe this teacher is coming from out of state. She's moving back into the area to be closer to her family, actually right in Barkhamsted. So she is going to be joining us on November 15th. And we are happy to be able to get a strong, experienced special education teacher that will be joining us. We were, again, fortunate. We had another young lady who was servicing a different school district, but she is filling our library and media specialist position that we had at Bachelor. She is, again, moving into the area due to family reasons. So, again, you're hearing me say, like, people moving into our area, and we're benefiting right now by that, by grabbing some really strong staff members. So Michelle will be joining us as a library media specialist. We had a teacher that is being blessed with the opportunity of being able to stay home with her child and be a mom for her career. So we had a resignation of a first grade teacher, and we have hired Amy Carlson as the replacement first grade teacher. And those conclude our hires. So.
Melanie, how do you spell that last name? Michelle?
It's Montague. Montague. Montague.
Mongeau?
Yes.
Okay.
You good? Every year, the Board of Education does approve its academic calendar for the coming year. So we have that in our packets this evening. Melanie, is there anything you want to point out to us?
Yes, I do want to point out, one, I want to thank Mr. Shagru for meeting with me, and we had about 20 text messages between the two of us to be able to get this calendar to be collaboratively put together between Winchester Public Schools and the Gilbert School. So I want to thank him for his collaboration around that. We have a couple changes, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of these changes really have to do with the opening of Hinsdale. As you heard Mr. Fenninger say, Hinsdale's timeline is tight right now. So because we have to move facilities around this summer and we're hiring a moving company, we traditionally run our summer school program, our early start program, at the bachelor school, and it's traditionally run from the beginning of July to the end of July, 4 days a week, give or take around 4th of July. So we've shifted our early start summer school program to be held at Pearson because Pearson has the least movement happening at it this year for summer school. And we are moving it to June 13th to June 30th because we won't have, the building moves are scheduled to happen during the month of July, which is the prime time where we typically would be running ESY, and I don't think it's going to be safe for children to be around all the commotion that moving buildings will have with moving companies in and out. So we've shifted that in the calendar. We still will have July 4th as a holiday. We have also shifted the start of school. So this year we started, which is non-traditional, it was the way the year fell. We shifted to be starting the week of the 22nd this year, that last full week, which is the traditional way we've started. However, I've pushed that to the 31st for the first start of school. If you know, in construction, 1 week can really make or break. So I wanted to give us the optimal amount of time, and I'm happy that Gilbert really agreed to be able to support us in that endeavor, to be able to give us the optimal amount of time to have the buildings ready for students to be able to enter. So we were asking for that extra week. We are continuing with our half days throughout the course of the school year to support professional development. We have aligned our half day in October to meet with the Gilbert School, and I believe, Greg, you have PSAT testing that day, and the kids have an adjusted schedule that day, so that way we could meet the needs of them and also meet the professional development needs of our district. The holiday for December, the children will have a half a day on the 23rd, which is the day before the weekend, which will start the holiday break. And then January, typically we start as soon as the New Year's Eve holiday is over. It's been falling on a weekend more recently. So in January, the 2nd is going to be recognized as the holiday because January 1st actually falls on a Sunday. Our staff, by contract, have the holiday the following day when it falls on a Sunday. So they'll have a day off on Monday, and the students will enter back to school on the 3rd. And going into February, we have recess February 20th and 21st. March, we have half days for parent-teacher conferences. April, with the way Good Friday fell in April 7th is Good Friday, and then we backed school vacation week up to April vacation to be able to give students and families the most substantial amount of time off there. And then in May, we have a half a day, and right now the last day of school would be scheduled for Monday, June 12th, which would be a half a day.
Melanie, there's no news about using remote days for snow days. Has that all been taken back?
Right now, there is no, that had to be legislatively driven beyond the executive order that allowed it last year. That has not been extended at this point. And there is no usage right now of remote learning days in lieu of a snow day.
Okay. And then the other thing is there's nothing from the community asking for the Jewish holidays in September? No request?
I have not had that request.
Okay, thank you.
Do you often get input from parents on the calendar? Is that something that happens frequently, or is it?
I think for the most part, we have a few families that do celebrate alternative holidays that are not traditional to this calendar. Those families receive excused absences for those particular holidays that they celebrate religiously, and we excuse those students from school on those days.
Thank you.
Mel, can I make a note of correction?
Yes.
April, in the center column, it says April 10 to 14. Spring recess, April 10 to 24.
Well, wouldn't we like to have the 10th to the 24th off? Yes, I will absolutely make that change. Thank you for noticing that. Got it.
Do we need to make a motion?
We do.
I make a motion to accept the calendar. Has been presented.
Is there a second for that?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussions on the school calendar as presented tonight? If not, all in favor of approving the calendar?
Doc?
Doc, so
Okay.
that's unanimous. Thank you. And do you want to talk a little bit about the review of the furniture fixtures, Melanie?
Yes, so I have a document and I will pass it around. It's 209 pages long, double-sided. So I didn't want to make a copy of it for everybody. However, if you want a copy, I will provide a copy to you, but I'm going to pass it around. So this is the phase 2 of 3 for the Hinsdale School renovation project. The Board of Education for phase 1, which was construction, needed to sign off and acknowledge that this construction project was supported by the Board of Education. Phase 2 covers what's known as the furnitures, fixtures, and equipment. What is in here are all the specs for the furniture that we're purchasing, which we don't have to purchase a lot because over the course of receiving grants, we pre-purchased so that we used grant funding to cover that and wouldn't have to ask for it out of these funds. And then all of the, so the rule around a furniture, fixtures, equipment is it has to last a minimum of 20 years, and a furniture, fixture, equipment has to be attached to the building. So it might be like computer screens that are mounted to the wall, like a projection system would be a piece of equipment. All furniture, like a teacher's desk, has to have a 20-year lifespan on it. So nothing that is, consumable, like pencils or anything like that, would be considered eligible for phase 2 of furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So in phase 2, you will see literally the product that is being purchased. And it has the design specs on it, also the dimensions of the product description, the quantity that we are purchasing for it. We are going with maple finished cabinetry in the building, so we have maple finished furniture that is going in to a line. And again, we have a small budget based upon, in other projects that I've done in other districts, you can get in the millions of dollars for this. Ours is no way near that. In looking at the final price for this, I am getting to it in the booklet. Nancy, do you have that handy? I'm flipping and not getting to it the way that I want to get to it. 1 second, maybe it's in my booklet here. Sorry. All right, give me a second to find the bid amount on here. Nancy, do you have that copy of this or no?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right, hold on, I'm looking. Or maybe this one doesn't have the bid amount on it.
Wasn't it in the press, would be last month's minutes? Because you all approved it at last month's meeting.
Yeah, this is not the one, it's the playground that has the price on it this time through. This is just the quantity report. Yes, okay. So I apologize for that. You can see in here the contractor's application for payment is blank right now. So they have not done that because it has not gone out to bid yet, but this is what would be bid on.
So this is just for informational purposes then?
Yes, and it just has to be acknowledged by the Board of Education in that you just have to sign off that you have, the Board of Education has acknowledged that this exists and that you agree with the furniture that we're purchasing. So I'm going to pass around the booklet if you guys would like to look at it.
Does phase 2 include lighting? Does phase 2 include lighting?
No, lighting comes as part of the construction
So
budget.
phase 1?
Yes. I kind of describe furnitures, fixtures, and equipment almost as the pretty part of the building, because that's the part where, like, your specialized desks, your specialized furniture, any type of aesthetic stuff that is attached to the building gets installed.
Can I ask another question?
Of course.
Was it, did they approve, because I wasn't obviously here for phase 1, did they approve standard fluorescent, or were you able to sneak in the?
No, we have energy efficient lighting all throughout the entire building.
Is it radiant, ambient? No?
I don't know that precisely, but I do know that it's high efficiency LED. It is LED, correct, Nancy? The lighting that we have over, it's LED.
Pertaining
Yes.
to our conversation about lighting.
Yes, yes. And one of the things when I went over there just the other day, they've cut the windows out in the new addition. And the windows in the new addition, I'm going to use rough, footage, but they're about 12 feet wide by about 10 feet tall. It's a huge panel of windows that are going in, and just the light that was pouring. It was a sunny day when I was over there the other day. The light that was pouring into the classrooms was just beautiful.
We don't need a motion for this, is that correct?
You do need a motion for it once it is reviewed by the committee. Would you like me to talk about phase 3 while you're looking at the template, and then, or would you like me to wait?
Can I ask a question about that window?
Sure.
Where is this window?
In the classrooms.
Okay, so considering Hinsdale's history with the cafeteria window, how large and huge and sun-soaking that was, it made the room so hot.
So the window, so Hinsdale, that large window that was absolutely gorgeous, I loved, faced this way. These windows run this way. So the sun glare came in on that window this way. These run parallel into the sun glare, so it's not a window that's going to get side light to it.
And then
direct
for
light.
security reasons, there's tinting or something.
We have, and I can't go into security detail for reasons that you know. Security details are confidential. I don't go into security details for obvious reasons. But I can tell you that they meet or exceed all security standards.
Thank you.
So you would like a motion on this, but I assume that, does the building committee have any input into this portion of it? Or?
Yes, so the building committee, I had a meeting with the building committee about last month, actually, where Silver Petroselli had come out and had done a full presentation of the FF&E package, and also the playground contractor had come out and explained all the playground equipment. Following that, they had to make a very similar motion to be able to accept the package, which they did, both package 1 and package 2 and package 3. And now the Board of Education has to do that same thing. And I've worked extensively with Jennifer Lipset from Silver Petroselli on all the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. We've had many meetings regarding the selection of materials. And also have done product reviews where they've brought products out to the construction site for me to be able to look at and test.
This does not include the finance here, right? The cost?
No, this does not. This is an acknowledgement of what the products are.
Okay.
The Hinsdale School Renovation Committee handles the financial end of that.
So I wrote so far a motion to accept and review the cost, and no, cost package is not right then. Motion to accept the review of the package for Phase 2 of the Hinsdale renovation project to be submitted to the Department of Administrative Services. This is an acknowledgement that we have received it. I don't have a first. I don't even have a motion. I just wrote it down.
I thought you were making a motion.
No, but I can because I typed it.
Might as well.
I'll make that motion. Anybody want a second?
I'll second it.
Do we have a second already?
Okay. Sue, good?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Okay.
Any against or abstentions?
I just got.
Pardon?
We're going on looking at this. I haven't even looked at it yet.
I understand that, so if you prefer to abstain,
I will
that's fine.
abstain.
I can understand that, that's perfectly reasonable. Okay, so we have that, and then we have the playground package for, basically, is it the same kind of thing?
Yeah, same thing. I was able to get a hold of the quote, though, from Creative Recreation for the playground. So the quote for the playground for the pre-K playground is $111,000. The quote for the first and second grade playground is $138,000. And that includes the rubberized surface that the playground is installed on so that mud is not an issue. I have pictures right in here. So inside of your board packet, and I'll kind of, if anyone wants to, Nancy, maybe you could pull out the pictures if anyone wants to come up out of the board packet to be able to take a look at it. They're welcome to. One, I want to acknowledge that the playground is accessible to students, both mobile and non-mobile students. The equipment has the ability to be able to, if you look on the first page on 48, there's a specialized swing that's being installed for students that may have disability. There's also, if you look on page 48, you can see in the upper left-hand corner, there's like a red pole with a circular base on the bottom. That pole is a spinning pole, and it's really used a lot with children that have autism, and it helps with kind of their functioning of being able to center themselves. So we were really specific around, one, being able to have traditional play equipment that all children seem to be able to enjoy, but at the same time acknowledging that we have all different types of children that need to be able to play successfully. So I think Creative Recreation did a really nice job in putting a myriad of equipment out there for children. There's also some stationary elements out there that are related to music, and if you flip through the pages there, you can see some of the stationary elements. There's like a steel drum area for students. There's rocking chairs out there. There's a music board that makes all types of noise. And then there's hand drums that are on a platform there too. We also have on the upper level playground for first and second graders, there's, again, very similar experience in terms of having some stationary music-based equipment for students. Equipment also that is accessible. If you look on page 51, in the center of the drawing, there's a circular spinning object at the top. Forgive me, I don't know what the name of it is. But students, whether you're ambulatory or non-ambulatory, can sit in that, and it helps them to spin, and they can participate with their friends. And if you turn on to the next page, you'll see the other side of that equipment has a really large spider climbing equipment attached to it. That's going to be a new piece of equipment to our community, so I expect that that is going to be a very popular piece of equipment because we don't have that one around anywhere in Winchester town right now. So if anyone has any questions on the play equipment, as you flip through on page 56 and 57, you can see the layouts from more of an architectural perspective of what is going on with the playgrounds.
Melanie, where do these designs and suggestions come from? Who chooses what piece of apparatus and how it's configured?
So it's a combination of several items. One, we wanted to make sure that all children had items that they could play and be successful on. So that was one of the core components of telling Creative Recreation. We want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to play. The second piece of it was identifying pieces of equipment that might be on the state bid list, because if we can pull items off the state bid list, we also get a better bang for our buck because they're mass wholesale priced at that point. So it was a combination of those two things, and then Creative Recreation worked with myself to be able to look at the different pieces of equipment that we were going to be using and say yay or nay to them, and then we came down to what this is the final agreement on the play equipment.
So who exactly was we? Was it you and Barb and others?
So I worked with the Hinsdale School Renovation Committee, a couple members on that. I also worked with Creative Recreation. We worked with Silver Petrocelli because of the space requirements for different pieces of equipment in the fall zone that's required around certain pieces of equipment, like swings have a certain fall zone, and because kids jump off of swings, so you can't have another piece of equipment that they might jump onto or fall into, you know, within a certain parameter around that.
Where was this going to go? Like, so can
So-
I imagine this?
Yeah, so there's two places that the playgrounds are going to go. The pre-K and K playground, one is enclosed fully by black fence, and it is literally up against the building. So as you're driving around Hinsdale right now, the curved road that takes you around the property, there's a section of grass between the main entry of the building and where the new addition is. So there's like a ridged area right there. They're going to flatten that whole area out, put a black fence around it, pour in the new porous membrane, rubberized stuff that goes on the bottom of playgrounds, and then they'll install the playground there. It's easily accessible because the door from the pre-K area literally goes right out there. So those kiddos will never have to go on a sidewalk. They will literally go from the building straight into their playground. So because we do have that road right there, those students will never ever have to cross the road. Or the driveway, I shouldn't say road, but the driveway.
And this is not chips, not wood chips anymore.
No, this is a poured rubberized membrane that is porous, and it allows, there's a whole entire drainage filtration system built underneath these playgrounds, and if it rains, literally an hour after the rain stops, those kids can be on that playground equipment playing. So the muddiness, the poor Rosie having to change children after coming in from recess. I know I had a little one covered in mud yesterday at Oak Street. That won't be happening as much because they'll be on a poured rubberized surface, and it's squishy. So let's just say I jumped off the monkey bars or I fell off the monkey bars. It's really squishy when you walk on it. So the impact of falling on concrete or asphalt is a lot more damaging than falling on this squishy surface that's porous.
What's the lifespan of that?
It's a lot. I can tell you, I don't know what the exact lifespan is, but I can tell you from my own personal experience of installing a playground with it. I installed a playground in Hartford the very first year that I was a teacher and physical education teacher there. That playground and that poured surface, when you drive by, I just drove by about a month ago, looks exactly the same as the day it was installed.
Melanie, how much field green do the kids have to run in?
A bundle. So there is, so the field where the other playground is going, there's a cordoned off area that has the poured surface over there, kind of next to our parking lot, that goes out into a portion of the field. And then that entire field section, like where the old baseball area was, with the exception of where the parking lot is scheduled to be, will completely be mowed an open play area.
Mel, I have a question about expected repairs and replacement pieces. What's, what kind of plan do you have going forward? Because pieces get missing and broken and painted on and...
Yeah, so I'm gonna cross my fingers that individuals are as respectful as this new playground as they are of the Pearson playground. So our Pearson playground, which was installed about 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago now, has enjoyed people being very respectful of it. There's no graffiti, there's been no damage. We also have a really strong security system over there that can see the color of your eye from across the field. So that has helped to be able to keep the playground equipment monitored, and also if there is an issue, we have the ability to be able to identify very clearly who is over there causing the issue. That same secure level of security will be on the new playgrounds that are installed over at Hinsdale. And I think part of it goes back to educating our community about these are amazing opportunities for our kids to be able to have for decades to come, you know, and if we maintain them well and we take care of them well, we will have to do that. Using the rubber surface is actually a saver of that situation because you're not replacing mulch on a yearly basis. You're not going back and having to bring in equipment to level out the divots that develop from using mulch and where the kids drag their feet under the swings. So some of that is already built-in maintenance. But Creative Recreation is the same company that also installed the Pearson Playground system. And they have replacement parts for all the different components. So let's just say, I don't know, someone broke like a metal panel. You don't have to buy a whole new piece of equipment. You just have to replace that metal panel. So a lot of the components have smaller pieces that can just be replaced so that it's not, you're not replacing a whole piece of equipment.
I'm looking at, like, for example, the musical one, and there's, it looks like something you take out to strike like a xylophone. I mean, things like that will, you know, over time, maybe get yanked on or fought over or whatever.
So I believe, and I'm going to try to look back in this here, I believe that that mallet.
54.
54? Let me just. So that's attached to the xylophone, I see. But, you know, that's one of those pieces where if it does break or it does get taken, we have 1 million xylophone mallets in the district. We'll put it in the recess bag and we can just take out a new xylophone mallet.
Okay.
So other than that piece, I don't think that there's any other off the top of my head that has like a piece of equipment that I would be worried about disappearing or being damaged for whatever reason.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we're not discussing cost of this tonight. We just
You're not, the cost is in there for your edification, but you're approving the playground package. Oh, and I did find the FF&E price. I knew I had it somewhere in here. So the Phase 2 FF&E price is total project of $172,000 and $761.23. Compared to some of the other $1 million FF&E packages I've seen, that's a pretty solid number right there. And that's on page 58. Thank you.
All right, so we are looking for a motion to approve the playground package as approved for Phase 3 of the Hinsdale School renovation.
Make it first.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions on this at this time?
To me, it just seems like a lot of money, almost $250,000 for some plastic slides and swings.
So the original company, this is actually a second company that I pushed them to go to, because the first company they were using was called Compan, and Compan is a very high-end playground company. And the original spec'd prices on the playgrounds from Compan were between $350,000 and $400,000. So I could not swallow that amount of money for a playground, but honestly, from what we paid from the Pearson playground, which does not have the poured surface, nor does it have the drainage underneath it, we are seeing Pearson's playground was around $70,000 just for the base playground amount, not including the drainage and or the poured surface, because they're on mulch and divoted ground over there. So I think the prices, honestly, for the scope of what the playgrounds are, and I think they're fair priced at this point, and they both are coming off the state bid list, which also allows for additional savings.
And if I may, a second question. When we say it's must have a 20-year lifespan, is it also, does that mean they insure it for 20 years, the company?
So I don't think their warranty is 20 years. I want to say their warranty is 5 years on their product off the top of my head. But the product, like the specifications of the product, have an expected lifetime of beyond 20 years. This playground should absolutely, if taken care of properly, last well beyond 20 years.
So to put it in perspective, are you familiar with the former Hinsdale playground?
Yes.
Okay, and did you see the state of disrepair it was in right before it closed?
Before the school closed.
Okay, I had the company come out to the site to do just the minimal repairs to make it safe, and their quote was, I believe, $17,000. And that was paint, replacing a few panels, repairing a few pieces. That buying a new one, at the time we looked, the PTO was looking into trying to raise funds to create a new one instead of like, why pay 17? So we were looking out, and just to repair like that central area, replace it, was somewhere between 40 and 70,000 for one piece. So when I heard these numbers, I actually understood from experience that they're actually pretty good, and I'm pretty impressed with what they're able to get for those costs. So it's, the market really is like that.
So if I add the two, is it $250,000? Is that what your math
I got
is?
249,609.
All right, yeah. I'm off by one,
It's a lot of
but
money,
pretty
no
much,
question
yeah.
about
For
it.
some, yeah, for some plastic equipment, you know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's,
I realize.
it's the world we live in, Sal.
Yeah, right? You know where to go into business now.
So we do have a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion on the playground? If not, all in favor? And Sal?
I will be abstaining my vote again.
Okay,
Thank you.
so we have 8, 4, and 1 abstention. Thank you.
I have 701. With 8 people.
Right, I'm sorry, yep, correct. New business. We have spent some time discussing the COVID vaccination requirement policy that we should probably review for the benefit of our new members. Melanie, can you go over that since
Yeah.
Cheryl and Michelle are both gone?
Absolutely. So this COVID-19 policy is actually from the Executive Order 13G, and this deals with staff. This does not deal with students. So I just want to be crystal clear on that. So Executive Order 13G requires that our staff do one of two things. So they either have to be vaccinated and show proof of that, or they cannot be vaccinated, but they have to have a weekly COVID test that says that they're negative during the course of the executive order. Right now, that executive order is set to expire on February 15th. That will then make this policy null and void. So once February 15th, or if that executive order is canceled prior to February 15th, then this policy no longer will be applicable. Right now, I can tell you our percentages of vaccinated workers within Winchester Public Schools is 94% vaccinated fully. We have 7 individuals right now that are testing on a weekly basis, and you can test for one of 3 reasons. You can test because you're choosing to actively not be vaccinated. You can test because you have a medical exemption, and you can test because you have a religious exemption. All of those are acceptable reasons to test. And we've had compliance on all fronts of that particular situation. So our attorneys have advised us, because we have an executive order around this particular policy, to make sure that we adopt the language of the executive policy for personnel reasons in the district for this, and have the documentation as such. If anyone has specific questions about the policy or the executive order, I can do my best to address them for you.
94% vaccinated.
94% vaccinated.
May I ask you a question?
Of course.
Okay. I know that at one of the board meetings, the teachers had to go outside to get tested. Has that changed at all? Are they able to avail themselves of being tested within the school for the, or no?
So they are, through the executive order, the language in the executive order is that it is at your own cost, own time in the executive order. So that is not a decision that the district locally can make.
Any other questions on this policy? And again, it would sunset at February 15th as it stands now.
As it stands now, yes. And if that executive order expires or is not, is canceled at any time, then the policy is canceled at that time also.
So essentially, a move to approve this policy is a motion to be in compliance with the executive order.
It's to acknowledge that for personnel reasons, I have to follow the rules of the executive order, because if I have an employee that is not complying with the executive order on a personnel level, I have to take action.
Can you explain the first and second read so people understand what that means? 'Cause
Yes.
We're at the second read.
Yes, so the committee on, the policy committee, which is comprised of Board of Education members, reviewed this. Every policy starts at the committee level, and the board, the individuals assigned to the policy committee, will then discuss the policy, and if they feel that it is a policy that should be reviewed by the full Board of Education, then that policy is forwarded to what's called a first read. That first read is when the full board is privy to the policy for consideration. Once the first read happens, typically what happens at that point, there's feedback on it, or if there's changes on it, those changes are put into place. And then it has to come back to the Board of Education, the full board, for a second read. And this is the stage in which the Board of Education will take a vote on the policy for implementation. If that answers your question.
Thank you, Melanie.
You're welcome.
So we would need a motion to approve this policy as presented this evening.
Make a motion.
Second.
Any other questions or discussions on it? Okay. All in favor of this policy, please raise their hand. Okay, and those against? We have 6 for and 2 against. Okay, the motion passes.
6, wait, I have 5. Say that again, wait, do that again. I had 5. Wait.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
6. Thank you. 6,
Sorry.
what was the other?
2 against.
2, okay, no abstention?
No. Okay, on to some more fun stuff. CABE training. When the board was in receivership a number of years ago, the state of Connecticut mandated that the Board of Education undergo pretty extensive training. We were meeting once a week with members from the CABE staff who were basically trying to teach us how to be effective and responsible board and a high-functioning board. There were a number of people involved in that, but one of them was a gentleman by the name of Nick Caruso, who has made subsequent visits to this board, usually when we elect new folks. He's been out here, I think he told me 48 times, or 48 or 49, and he's gunning for 50. He's a really good guy to talk to. He's very well informed. He does wonderful presentations. I think even those of us who have been on the board for a number of years could appreciate a refresher. But I would propose that we ask him to come out again and meet with our board and give us a little bit of a primer on the roles and responsibilities of boards of education. He and Melanie have been in communication with each other, and he's put forth some dates which are in your packet. November 22nd, November 23rd, November 30th, December 1st, 9th, 14th, 20th, 21st, or 22nd. So what he'd asked is if we do want to do this, that we get back to him and commit to a date so he can put it into his calendar. Kristen, I don't know if you participated with Nick at all. I think you kind of missed that. Dick, you know him well. Nora, you know him well. I think it's time well spent. I would recommend we do it. I can make myself available on most of those dates, but what's the sense of the board? Is that something?
What's the time frame?
Typically, it's in the evening. He'll show up around 7. It'll be about 2 hours. I mean, he could, if you let him, he'll meet with you every day for a month. But, but you don't want to go there. I think he can give us a condensed version in about one evening. So is that something?
It's really well worth it. He tells you the lane you're in, and the simplest of things. For example, this is not a public meeting, it's a meeting in public. So it just allows you to frame your job and your responsibility in the community. Really well worth it.
So you new folks interested in doing that? All right. We can do this a couple ways. A lot of people have their calendars on their phones, or we can do it via email, but it'd be nice to be able to set a date tonight if we could.
Well, the 30th is our committee meetings.
Which won't be held in November because the committees have not been appointed until December.
Okay. Oh, I can't delete that, okay. So we're gonna have consecutive meetings the 7th and the 14th?
Of December, yes, because of the holiday break.
Okay.
So you could go the 30th in the absence of a committee meeting. November 30th, which is a Tuesday.
That's a Tuesday. That's a good day for me. How does November 30th work for everybody? Jeanette's good. Renee's good.
At 7?
Yeah, I think.
I can make that happen if the full board decides that they want to do
I'll
that.
let you.
At 7 o'clock in the evening, I can make
Yeah,
myself.
okay, great. Chris?
Yeah, I would normally be here anyway. so-
Okay, and Doc, you're good with that? Okay.
That was the easiest scheduling of a meeting I think we've ever had. I just want that on record.
You want 7 o'clock, not 7:30.
I think 7's good.
All right. I will call tomorrow and I will confirm that with him and I will send the board an email confirming.
Now we have some grant money to approve. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 grants, 6 grants.
Nancy, could I have you come up to the chair, please? Nancy, if you could, because they have to approve each one of these grant amounts individually, can you go over what the grant is briefly, what the purpose of it is, please, so they're
Okay.
aware?
All right, and I may defer to Seamus a little bit to chime in too, because
Certainly.
many of them are directly related to his expertise with special education. So the first one is the ARP, which is the IDEA grant, which is special education, and it is for students grades 5 to 22, I believe.
No, pre-K to 22.
Oh, no, 611.
611 is K to 22.
K to 22, okay, I was close. And so that is an extension, basically, of our current IDEA grant that we can augment and do some more creative things to try and help these kids bridge and get back up to speed with what they've lost during COVID. These are all COVID-driven grants that are being offered to us to apply for, and I'm looking for your approval to apply on behalf of the district.
And just to refresh our memories, the ARP is American Recovery Plan, right?
American Recovery Plan, and ESSER is Every Student Succeeds Recovery Act, I do believe. So all these new acronyms you're learning. So that's what the 611 grant would do for $54,000. It is a grant that would be spent over 2 years. So that gives us time to really work with the children and help
bridge any gaps that they have.
And that money would be primarily for staffing costs or?
Programmatic.
Just all program costs?
Yes, yeah. We can't do staff with most of this.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we can do contractors, and we may be contracting for some additional social work help or behavior technician help, something in those veins to help the kids that were really out of the school setting for a period of time that need to be made more comfortable to be in the classroom.
So can you give us some specific items that might be purchased with that money?
Sure, so it's for recovery and sustainability. So for example, we might be using some of that money for BCBA support, which is a behavior certified board behavior person that would come in and would work in possibly our pre-K or our K programs. It might look for reading support, so we might train some staff in some different types of reading programs. It might be social worker counseling support, so we might look at a contractual service that way to have someone come in and do some of that work around professional development. So it's nothing about bringing in employees to work for the districts. It's all about recovery for our students and building sustainability in our paraprofessionals and our staff and things like that. So using that money to maintain our current programming, but then offer sustainability as well too.
Thank you, Seamus.
Seamus, do you want to just join Nancy at the table since many of these are shared in your office?
They really are his bailiwick, yes.
Thank you.
So I'd like to do these one by one if we could.
I'm sorry, Seamus, like professional development in reading? Like
Excuse
to
me?
train your teachers in reading skills
Correct.
and have your PD for them?
So specifically, we're looking at possibility for speech and language pathologists, to have someone come in and do some work around that because we are down 2 speech paths. So bringing a speech path from the outside to come in and do work with our regular education teachers to work on intervention in the classroom to reduce the numbers of referrals and the interventions that they could possibly do in the classroom before bringing it to, say, a PPT or a tiered intervention setting. Paraprofessional, professional development too, possibly RBT training, which is, registered behavior technicians as well. Yeah.
I know.
So an RBT is a behavior technician, and that's basically a paraprofessional that has a little bit more experience with working with students with behaviors, possibly doing more in-depth work versus just kind of a classroom paraprofessional supporting a student. So it'd be another additional strategy or another additional thing we would put in place for our staff members to learn something new to use as a skill in the school system.
Okay, and again, the primary focus on this grant money is that children have lost ground due to COVID.
Correct.
And we want to get them up to
Correct.
where they would have been had
Correct.
COVID not occurred.
Correct.
So that's why it's
Professional
under the RP.
development and sustainability are the 2 main things. Not having to bring in people for staff, bringing in things to keep our staff moving and sustain our staff.
So the difference between the 611 and the 619 is just?
Sure. Age.
All right, okay.
Like Nancy said, age 5 to 22 is the 611 grant. Age 3 to 5 is the 6119 grant. So when I think of 619, I think of pre-K. And when I think of the other grant, I think of everything else across the board.
Okay, so let's try to clean some of these up. Can I have a motion to approve the ARP IDEA Grant 6111 for the amount of $54,747?
A motion to approve.
Thank you, Renee.
Second.
Is there a second? Any more questions or discussions? Do we understand what that money is going to be used for? All right, all in favor? Aye, that's unanimous, I believe. Thank you. So it sounds like the next one's just an age differential, less money, different age group.
Correct. So that grant, again, we only have about $5,000. It's not a lot of money, so maybe we might be looking for some professional support to come in and maybe do some in-service with our staff. Or we might look at some intervention materials that we could provide the regular education teachers in the area of possibly speech and language, occupational therapy, that can be put into the classroom.
Okay.
It's a very small amount.
Good. Thank you, Seamus. Is there a motion to approve that grant?
I'll make a motion.
A motion from Jeanette, thank you.
I'll second.
Second from Kristen. Any questions or discussions? If not, all in favor? That motion is unanimous. Thank you. And now we move on to the ESSER grants. Every student succeeds except... I knew that.
It's too many letters.
All right, so why don't you explain these to us?
Sure, so these are two additional, Nancy, you want me to, you want to go
I
first?
just
You
want to
talk
preface this with, we've just received this information, so it's not as if the grants are even written yet. These are the conversations we're having as to what we would apply for, and so this is your approval that we'd be applying for these grants that we've been made aware of.
The state just released these grants to us last Thursday and Friday, were released and open to us, so, and they gave us a nice turnaround of November 15th and November 30th to come up with this time frame. So working pretty diligently, but we have met, Nancy is the business director, myself and my team have met to talk about a variety of different things that we could use this money for. I've also vetted this information with Mel as well too, in regards to some of the thought processes that we've had. But again, nothing is set in stone right now in regards to, I have to write the grants still at this time.
Okay, so
which is that
the process looks like this. The state informs you that under this grant title heading, Winchester has X amount of dollars available for certain purposes that are identified in the grant language.
Correct.
Then it's your job to decide how you would spend those funds.
Correct.
And you
With
come.
whatever stipulations that they put inside the grant that we have to abide by.
Right. And so what you're looking for tonight is a board to approve your going back to the state and saying, yes, we'll take your money, this is how we'll use it.
Correct. And the state will, it has to be approved by Mel, and then the state will have to then approve the grant. If they don't like the way we wrote the grant, and we did something they don't like, they will send it back to us and say, we have not approved your grant.
Okay.
Hasn't happened yet, I don't.
No, it has not happened. It's a collaborative process, so we make sure that it flies.
So what are we spending $40,000 on recovery activities?
We haven't decided all of that yet right now. A lot of that money could go to that BCBA that I spoke about, because that is a heftier price tag along that service that we look for.
Yep.
We could be looking at some adaptive playground equipment for Pearson as well too, because we don't have a lot of adaptive equipment at Pearson's playground right now, and we want to keep it up to date with the new playgrounds that are going to be developed in the new school. So we've looked at that as an opportunity, as well as some staff training specifically in reading and math. So it's a combination of a variety of different things with those monies.
Okay.
That would apply to both of those grants.
The $40,000 one and the $25,000 one, those are the discussions that we're having.
The stipend grant, the $25,000 ones, I wrote a grant previously, which they accepted. We spent down that money, and then they allowed us, because we spent down that money and the grant was written correctly, we were able to apply for this additional grant money. So that's where we're getting additional grant money this way.
Okay. So, just so we all understand this, you identified needs that this money can be spent towards.
Correct.
It's just not really penciled in or inked in exactly what items you're going to use that money for, but
Correct.
there are clearly needs that fall under those
Again,
categories.
all about developing our staff and sustainability. That's what I focus on, the two main things around those two areas.
All right, so with that in mind,
And then if I made the dyslexia grant, Doug, the very last one,
Yep.
it can only be used for specifically tutoring in the areas of dyslexia, nothing
Okay.
else.
All right.
So that is just kids that have identified, that this state has identified that have dyslexia in our district based off of our numbers. They put a formula together, they give us that money, and it cannot be used for anything else other than tutoring students for recovery over the next 2 years for that grant. Nothing else it can be used for.
All right, so let me
There's
change.
no wiggle room in that grant.
Let me change gears then. I would like to have a motion, if we could, to expedite this process to approve the ESSER grants, the SPED, the bonus SPED, and the bonus dyslexia recovery for the amounts stipulated, since you obviously have yet to specify exactly how they're spent, but the money's available when we know and trust that you'll spend it wisely.
Wait a minute, sorry. This is items E, F, and G.
No, actually,
F, G,
it's
H.
F, G, and H.
Wait a minute, hold on, F, G, and H. Hold on. F, G, and H, F, G, H, F, G, H. Hold on. So I had moved something, right? F, G, and H. Sped recovery, sped facilitation, and dyslexia. You don't need separate motions?
Well,
for
I'm
this?
saying that, given the fact that there's a lack of specifics because of the timing on this, that there's relatively small amounts of money, and Seamus is yet to identify specific things, but basically what we're approving here is that the money's available, and they're going to apply for it and spend it on identified needs.
I'm thinking we should make separate.
I agree.
All right.
Because the itemization of it.
Okay, fine. So we would need a motion to approve ESSER 2 SPED recovery activities grant in the amount of $40,000.
I'll first.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Good. Okay, we're getting there.
Okay.
Approve ESSER 2 bonus SPED special population recovery, $25,000.
So moved.
So moved from Sal, second from Sandra.
Good,
All-
Sal?
Yeah.
Dr. Dunn.
Oh, okay, it's Dr. Dunn. Okay, sorry.
Second
From
was.
Sandra.
Sandra.
Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Approve ESSER 2 bonus dyslexia recovery in the amount of $16,250.
First.
First.
Second.
Second. Questions? All in favor? All right. Would have been quicker my way, but not too bad. Now, we have some sort of old business. At the end of the budget year, if we're lucky, the Board of Education has money left over. And there is legislation that allows us to retain a certain amount of that money, should the Board of Selectmen approve it. Last year, we had a budget surplus, or a budget, I don't know if that's the right word, but we had money left over, in large degree due to many funds coming in for COVID. We had $307,274 left in the kitty. And if the town allows us to do that, we would put that into our non-lapsing fund, and it could be used for emergencies, mechanical breakdowns, projects that we otherwise wouldn't have funding for.
It also can be used to offset any potential increases in our upcoming budget year.
As it is this year.
Yes, as we've used money for it this year, so that it helps to offset monies that we would be asking for the taxpayer to front on taxpayer side.
Is it 307, 2%?
It's a 2%. Non-lapsing is the maximum that you're allowed to carry into that fund.
So that's the 307?
Yes.
Okay.
And just to
Is
clarify,
that correct? Is that-
2% is the amount of your total budget that you're allowed to be able to,
On an annual basis.
on an annual basis.
And that's where the 307 came from?
Yes.
That's,
Oh,
yeah,
I
that's what this,
misunderstood.
yeah, it was,
Okay.
I went through the legislature again in 2019.
Okay, I
So,
thought
and
it
it
was
was
up to
increased from
2%.
1% to
So-
2%.
Up to 2%.
But that 307 is the 2%?
No, that's less than 2%.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
Okay. So the 307 is what we had.
Okay.
Yes.
2% of $20 million would be more than that.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So we had the excess largely left over because we were able to shift some of our monies that we needed to spend into COVID relief funding, thereby opening up some more money in the appropriated budget at the time. So we shifted expenses to grants rather than shifting them into the appropriated budget, thereby opening that amount of money.
And just to speak to what Melanie mentioned earlier, it is nice to have that cushion because there are times when you have things that happen that you can't control that would otherwise cause a big bump in your budget.
Elevator construction,
Elevators,
roofs,
a
roof leakage.
whole bunch of kids going out of
Oh my
district.
God.
So what we need to do tonight is approve the request to the Board of Selectmen to allow us to deposit $307,274 into our non-lapsing account.
Motion to request the Board of Selectmen to deposit 307,274 into BOE non-lapsing account? No.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
BOE non-lapsing? Okay.
Yes, it is.
So it'd be our line item. Gotcha, that makes sense.
Yep. Was that you making the motion?
Well, okay.
Seconded.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? Very good, thank you. And the last fun thing is barns, right? We're gonna add
No,
that?
we have, letter J is
Oh,
approve the ESSER, BOE, ARP,
oh, yeah.
ESSER Homeless Children and Youth Grant application. So that is based upon the number of students that we have identified, and it's an algorithm in terms of the amount of money that we get that are identified in the district as homeless youth. So we get monies to specifically support their education and their experience, and the grant amount is $10,196. And this is the first time we've actually, as part of the ESSER and ARP plan, had the opportunity to be able to apply for those funds. So we're asking for the ability to apply for the $10,196 to support our homeless youth.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that total before. How much?
I have $10,196.
$196.
And sadly, we do have homeless youth.
Yes, we do.
Is there a motion to approve that grant, please? From Jeanette, thank you.
second.
Second, thank you. Renee, all in favor? Okay,
Sorry, I didn't
unanimous.
get this because I'm moving it from something
I'm
else.
sorry.
So who
Pretty
made-
soon, help is on the way.
I know. Who made the first? I did.
You ready?
Ready.
And second was? Renee.
So our last item this evening, as you know, we're going to be giving the bachelor school back to the town. And next to the bachelor school is an old red barn that's full of stuff.
Not anymore.
Okay.
It's empty.
Okay. But it does have a legitimate use for storing maintenance equipment, snow blowers, lawn mowers, all the equipment we need to maintain the school and the grounds. And that's going away. So as part of the Hinsdale Project, which is not under the heading of that construction grant, we need to find a home for all this stuff. So with that in mind, Melanie and I took a drive out to Cloder Farms in Ellington today. And I normally don't get involved in this stuff, but Melanie knows I love barns. She likes barns, so she asked me to
Love
go.
barns.
So she identified a need for basically 600 square feet of space to store the lawnmowers, et cetera. In addition, what we'd like to do is to have a lean-to cover for the truck that has the snowplow on it, so that the folks who go out to plow the snow in the morning don't have to start by brushing all the snow off the truck and getting that ready. So those are, in a nutshell, the specifications we gave to the Cloder folks. And we looked at a couple different models. They came back very quickly with a quote in the amount of $67,000, I think that's what they quoted us.
Yes.
Plus the foundation cost, which we'd have to do ourselves. And this is a perfect example of how we could use non-lapsing funds. If we have the money in the non-lapsing account, we don't need to go to the town, we don't need to go to the state for a grant, we can just say, we need a barn, we're gonna buy it, here it is. So this is something that we could talk about a little bit more, or we could just move forward with it. I think it's probably as reasonable a price as you're gonna find for what we want to accomplish. It's a, how can I say this? It's a building that's in keeping with a New England town, as opposed to putting up a Butler building, which you could probably do for a little less money.
I included a picture of
Oh, you
the
did? Okay,
spec
good.
of, it's on the last page. This is not the exact barn, but it's very close. It has, we increased the height of the garage door to 8 feet for clearances for some of our equipment in our truck that has the sander in the back of it. So that would be an 8-foot garage door. The double doors at the top of the dormer area there would not be double doors. It would just be a double window up there. We don't need a door at the top of that, so that would be taken off of there. We did not put any windows on the bottom of the barn for security reasons, because we didn't want people being able to look in and see the types of equipment that are stored in there. Sometimes that entices people to do things that are not good. And we put a single man entrance door in with just a transom at the top of it, just to provide some light in there. But it wouldn't be, unless you're 6 or 7 feet tall, the normal height individual would not be able to use that as something to look into the barn.
How far away is this?
The barn, so at Hinsdale, on the tight curve, literally right across from the main entrance foyer of the building, there's a curve in the road. It's designated to sit between that curve and the start of the new parking lot
Right here in town?
at Hinsdale.
Yeah, I heard you say Ellington.
Oh, we went to Ellington to look at the barn.
All right, but what you want is right here in town.
It would be placed over at the Hinsdale School, yes.
Thank you.
And there's 2 options. There's also a full second story on this building. So, and with the gable roof that it has, It's not that pitched like this, it's the barn style roof like in the picture. It makes the entire second floor 100% accessible. So it's 600 square feet on the bottom, 600 square feet on the top, with a 300 square foot long lean-to that can put the truck and the sander under it to protect the truck from weathering and all of that.
So Melanie, you need a motion for the 80,000 or the 67?
Well, that needs to be a discussion. So the foundation, because of the size of the building, requires a concrete foundation. You can't just put this thing on like a gravel slab. So the foundation for the project would be between $10,000 and $13,000 for the foundation, which would make the cost. So the board has two. No problem.
Usually me,
without you.
So the board would need to make a recommendation of going with the price that we know, which is $67,804 for the building, and then up to $13,000 for the foundation, making the total cost $80,804 for the building and the foundation. Or going with just the purchasing of the building at this moment, which is $67,804, no tax because we're tax exempt, obviously, not knowing what the price of a foundation from an outside company would be, which product and all that and stuff like that. I'm not sure how concrete works into how, the business world is pricing different objects. So if we purchase now at this price, it locks us in. If we wait, then we're subject to fluctuation in the market.
Couldn't we just do a motion to spend up to $80,000 and then you could subcontract the amount to the Cloder Farm and then decide how to do the foundation later?
Yes, we could do that.
Okay.
So what changed between the original conversation, which was gravel with some less detailed building?
So this is the base building that we needed. However, the lean-to was an add-on because we needed somewhere to really kind of park the truck at this point and keep it weather protected. The gravel base is due to the size of the building. So town code says that any building that has more than 600 square feet has to have a concrete permanent foundation. So we weren't aware of that code prior to having this discussion.
And more clearly, we didn't know the lean-to was going to add to the square footage. We thought the building, the enclosed part of the building was all that counted, but they said no, if you have a lean-to, even though it's open on three sides, it counts as a square footage. So that brings the total square footage up to 900 square feet, which means we need the foundation. So the other option would be not to do the lean-to, but then we'd have some pretty unhappy maintenance guys.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
This is just for storage of different maintenance equipment, not including the truck, which will be in the lean-to?
The truck could go in the garage if we wanted it to, but primarily we have a trailer, we have multiple zero-turn lawn mowers that do all of our lawn maintenance, we have chainsaws, we have tools, we have some snow blowers. There's all types of equipment, and we also have a lot of gas, which we can't legally store inside the school buildings. It has to be in its own separate compartmentalized area due to OSHA regulations in school grounds.
And then my second question is this barn kind of front and center? Is that why we're going for an aesthetically beautiful barn?
It is. It is literally right across from the main entrance of the school building. Barn has a really good warranty on it. It has a 10-year, basically, if a piece of paint scratches off of the thing, it's covered. They really stand by their product. So
at this time, you will not have any electrical run to the building, is that correct?
So there is a conduit line that will be run as part of the construction project from the Hinsdale School to the barn. we will subcontract or have our guys do an electrical wiring at a later date. It will not be done through the Hinsdale Project or through this company. But the construction company, when they're digging, is putting in the conduit line.
That was my question.
Yes.
So will that be an additional cost on top of
No,
that?
that's actually part of the Hinsdale construction process, because otherwise getting a conduit line over there would mean tearing up the driveway after it's already installed. So they're running all of that before they do the finished product over there of the roadways and the sidewalks and all of that.
And the hooking up of the building, will that be an additional
Yes,
cost to the
the electrical
electricity?
would be
Yeah,
electricity.
we have, you can do it a couple different ways. The electrical, you can do it as an organization through the town and the permitting office, or you can go out and hire an electrician. I'm sure for that level of work of wiring a barn, we'd probably hire that out. But that would be something that we'd be required to go out to bid if it's over $5,000, which it would be. I mean, I can't imagine that price being less than that, so.
Okay, so that'll be an additional to the.
I would hope, but I don't think so.
I'll do it for that. Okay, so we have a couple different options, and I guess it's depending on your comfort level with what this proposal is. It's basically what you see. It's a barn that's going to store our equipment. It's going to cost about $80,000 all in, and we need something, whether it's this or something else, but looking for feedback.
Is this also going to store Pearson's equipment?
Yes, so Pearson has a small storage area over there that's attached to the building, but separate. But most of their maintenance equipment will be in here because we typically trailer the lawnmowers around the district for various reasons. Because most of the red building up there had housed all of our like maintenance equipment that was up at Bachelor. So now they'll pretty much
leave it outside. It's a necessity.
no. And we've invested, those lawnmowers are $10,000 a piece to buy a zero turn. So certainly don't want to see that investment get damaged.
Or stolen.
Comments, questions? We're on the home stretch here, folks.
We are.
This is actually, just so you know, this is a late meeting for us.
It is late.
We're usually out of here by 9:15. And if Michelle were still on this board, she'd be looking at her watch. About 50 seconds.
So we have okay, so, we can make a motion to approve the Cutler Farm building quote for $67,000 for the building and up to $13,000 for the foundation. That's an option.
That is an option.
We can make another motion to, anything else? Just approve just the 67 and be to the winds. You could do that, just approve the 67,000.
And then, just to
Or
be
you-
clear, we would need to go out to bid on a foundation, which I don't know what that would run.
Or you could just go and say 80,000 for the entire thing. You can do option 3, which is
Yeah.
the
Well,
motion.
the benefit of using a number and not specifying Cloder Farms is you're basically putting the bidding out at the discretion of Melanie to say, I've got $80,000 to spend, how am I going to fill this need? I'm more comfortable with that than saying Cloder Farms, but I don't know what the protocol is.
We can do whatever the board wishes. I can also, there's another place in Ellington called Better Barns, similar product, type high-end, good quality product. I can contact them to see if they can get competitive with this price.
I'm sorry, did we already talk about how it has to be going out to bid?
It can be a sole source because it's a specific need.
Okay.
But I would encourage maybe some competitive shopping.
I agree.
So I'd be more comfortable with, I think the ballpark's going to be the same.
I agree.
I'd be more comfortable with not specifying Cloder Farms, but specifying a number that allows you to do the work you have to do to find a building. Any thoughts on that? Okay, so,
I'd like to see another proposal on
Okay.
another.
Sure. Okay, no problem.
So
Are you
I-
comfortable with the number?
I am.
Okay.
I have a so moved, which is, Doc, what's your motion to approve, so moved, what did you move?
Read me my-
All right, I've got a motion to approve up to $80,000 and $80,804.
Where'd you get the 804?
That's, you were talking about a dollar amount, where's your thing?
It's
Page
right
two?
here. It would be 13,000 plus that amount.
This here.
I got it, all right.
Motion to approve up to $80,804 for a building and foundation?
No,
No?
yeah, building and foundation.
The storage of equipment.
For storage of district equipment.
So are you making, I just want to be clear, because the motion that you're making right now is giving me permission to go out and spend $80,000 on a barn and a concrete foundation, and that does not need to be brought back to the board.
But I think Sal expressed a desire to have another bid.
Okay,
Correct.
so then the motion would not read that.
We don't have it seconded.
So I would advise, because I can't make
All right,
decisions.
so can I make a motion to
Remove.
have,
So
Mrs.
make a motion to
Shanley
remove it first.
remove the
first
the
motion.
first one.
Well, Dr. Dutton said, so he only has a first, he doesn't have a second. And if he doesn't have a second, it dies.
Okay, so the motion would die
Does
if there's
anybody
not a
second?
second.
So now you have the floor to put on.
All right.
We're figuring it
All
out.
right. Motion
Motion to have another
So-
bid submitted to the board for
Up to
assessment.
$80,000.
Up to $80,000.
Okay.
And let's keep it at this, and 804.
Okay. Motion to go out to a bid for a barn,
So can
a building?
Can I clarify that?
Yeah.
I would make a suggestion to maybe make the motion say, make a motion to direct the superintendent to provide the board with additional quotes for the purchase of barn and foundation up to $80,804.
Okay, got it.
Is that?
Because then we're giving you
You're
permission.
telling me this is my job,
look.
that I have to
Right.
go do this on your behalf. I have to provide you with additional numbers.
Does it have to be storage? Can it just say storage facility, not barn? I mean, does it have to be?
Storage
specific
facility's
to-
fine, yeah. And just so we understand the timing, they wouldn't start work on that until next April or May. So we'd like to get this in the works, but it's not crucial to do it. right
One of the
this
things that they did say with the fluctuation in lumber costs, if you know anything about construction right now, you know a 2x4 can be $7 one week and $3 the next. They do say that this is subject to kind of market pricing. So when we lock it in, though, we lock it in on that price. So lumber prices right now are kind of on the lower side of what they were 6 months ago. So that's in our favor at this moment.
This storage facility foundation, where's it gonna be located?
Right across, basically, from the main entrance of Hinsdale, the new entrance of Hinsdale. Night, Kurt.
Isn't that correct? We have a public comment portion at the end of the meeting. I'll ask you.
Just a quick question. You mentioned the foundation. If you go with that one company you were talking about for 67, you're gonna get a foundation too?
For the additional 13, yes.
Okay, if you were to tell them that you would go ahead with the building plus foundation, could you have them extend the warranty, please, by doing so?
For the foundation.
Please, you know, extend the warranty on it, if you go with foundation too. please.
They have a 10-year warranty on it right now.
Yeah, but they're providing the warranty, they could always extend it if they want the business.
We could always inquire.
I have a motion, excuse me. I have something in my throat, too. A motion to direct the superintendent to provide the Winchester Board of Education with additional quotes for the purchase of a storage facility and foundation for the new entrance.
No.
No, foundation, period, I'll get rid of it. Up to $80,000. A motion to direct the superintendent to provide the Winchester Board of Education with additional quotes for the purchase of a storage facility and foundation, up to $80,804. Is that right?
Sounds good to me.
You got it.
First would be,
That's Sal's motion.
second?
You got it? Sorry.
Kristen
No,
seconded.
good. Kristen said-
All in favor? Okay, we beat that one to death, that's good. So, last item of the evening is public comment. I'm going to say again, there's 3 minutes allotted to each speaker. Please do not defame any Board of Ed employee, student, or community member. Is there anybody who wishes to speak tonight? Is there anybody who wishes to speak tonight? Is there anybody left who wants to speak tonight? Okay, we are looking for a motion to adjourn. Great, thank you.
Run! Oh, yes.